Call this meeting of April 28th, 2025 to order. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. However, I've got one suggested amendment should you see fit. The item number new 22 under agenda items, the appointment of a planning and zoning board members. It's been requested to move that to right after the budget amendment quarterly budget update.
I'll make motion.
So new number 22 becomes new 15A. Let's call it 15A maybe.
Motion with changes. Second.
Mr. Mayor, staff would also request that we add the University of Florida Historic Preservation student presentation as item number 5.
Is that not on here yet?
I think it's on the commission's agenda, but it's not on the published agenda.
Oh, I've got it. Yeah, I actually have it on here. So we're adding the University of Florida Historic Preservation presentation as number 5 on the presentations. So 2 changes, adding number 5 under presentations for the UF Historical and moving the appointment of P&Z to right after number 15, the budget amendment. Had a motion from Commissioner Mazon, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion on the amendment, or excuse me, on the agenda? Any other amendments or anything? All right, seeing none, does the public have any comment on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor on the dais signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, so we did an invocation earlier in the night and a Pledge of Allegiance with our swearing-in ceremony, so we're disposing of that item as normally what we would do. But the first item is a presentation, proclamation supporting Josh Taylor's application for the Guinness Book of World Records. And I've got a proclamation that I'm going to read. Happy to be my first proclamation for my friend Josh. Where's Josh? Oh, there you are. I can't see far away necessarily. Okay, proclamation of the City of Newberry, Florida. Whereas we could begin with his time as a law enforcement officer, serving our community and protecting our children as the school resource deputy at Newberry Elementary, but that would make this one of the longest resolutions in the Newberry history. Whereas we could begin with his gift of a song that helped an entire town, multiple communities, the family of first responders, and 2 grief-stricken families of fallen officers cope with an unspeakable tragedy, but that would make today solemn. And we are here to celebrate. Whereas we could begin with a lifetime of community service, volunteering his time as a DJ at our middle and high school, allowing those schools to keep the costs down for all our kids, or volunteering his time to help raise money for a family whose daughter passed away in another state and wanted to bring her home to be buried among her family and friends. Whereas we could start with a lifetime of deeds, both little and big, that make Josh Taylor an example of a near-perfect role model for all of us. But that is also not why we are here. Whereas Josh Taylor is already a celebrity in our midst for his kindness, generosity, community spirit, and talent, he is also soon to be a Guinness Book of Record world record holder for being the only singer in the world to sing the national anthem on a glacier. Whereas Josh Taylor, right on cue. Whereas Josh Taylor is also working on 2 more world records. First, for being the only professional singer to sing the national anthem in a rainforest. And second, for being the singer to sing our national anthem at the highest altitude on record. Whereas Josh has a servant's heart and a celebrity sense of style, I do hereby proclaim Josh Taylor to be a Newberry rock star. No matter how far or wide his fame spreads, let it always be remembered and always be known that Newberry loved you first. And Newberry will always love you most. Now, therefore, be it resolved by virtue of authority vested in me as mayor that the City of Newberry supports Josh Taylor's applications with the Guinness Book of World Records, and we wish him all the luck in the world. In witness whereof, I here do set my hand and cause the great seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, to be affixed unto this 28th day of April in the year 2025. Honorable Tim R. Martin, Mayor, attested by Judy S. Rice.
All right. Yeah, you got those speech.
You want to say something first? We'll make sure that microphone is on.
I've gotten a few awards in my life, but none of them are as meaningful as when your hometown says they put their stamp of approval on you. So means a lot. So thank you guys. Thank every one of you guys for being here. And wow, I just, and I'm out there trying, just keep real hard, just keep going. But I'm just thankful that you guys took a moment. Mayor Martin, former mayor, back there, he kind of championed that with me a little bit. So I really appreciate all that you guys have done, all of the esteemed commissioners. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I don't have to say anything, right?
Boy, it takes a lot of performance, man. It takes a lot of big. Thanks, brother.
Oh, say, can you see? What's your name? Yeah, we gotta go to my kids' graduation thing. Sorry, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
And a shout out to my main man, Walt, who's like been kind of my manager right here, tearing it up.
Boy, yeah.
All right, so second item in presentation is National Fallen Firefighters Day Proclamation. I get to read some more. Proclamation of the City of Newberry, Florida, May 4th, 2025, National Fallen Firefighters Day. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 4th, 2025 as the day of the annual National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others by lowering the American flag on all federal buildings to half staff. And whereas an average of 80 firefighters courageously make that ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. And whereas firefighters and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community, and whereas the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend also marks International Firefighters Day 2025, and whereas it is of major importance, we increase our efforts to reduce deaths, injuries, and property losses from fire. I respectfully encourage organizations, as well as the citizens of the City of Newberry, to remember all fire and emergency personnel who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community, and to pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes by participating in Bells Across America for Fallen Firefighters. Toll a bell, pause for a moment of silence, or read a special passage to honor the sacrifices of these public servants and their families. I encourage our citizens to honor fire and emergency services personnel past and present who, by their faithful and loyal devotions to duties, have rendered invaluable service to our communities and its citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Newberry, I do hereby call upon all citizens of Newberry and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the day of May 4th, 2025 in recognition of the service and dedicated efforts of our fire and emergency services personnel across the nation by lowering American flags on all city buildings and facilities to half staff. In witness whereof, I here do set my hand and cause the great seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, to be affixed unto the 28th day of April in the year 2025. Honorable Tim Martin, attested by Judy Rice. Chief, are you coming up here to receive this proclamation? Judy, who wrote that proclamation? Who wrote that on staff? Yes. I think there is a typo in the first paragraph. There's a whereas that's included that probably should be a separate. Let me get a new copy of that. Thank you. All right, State Road 26, Newberry Road, intersection traffic control evaluation. I take it you're handling this one, Jamie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Commission. There's been a lot of discussion at the commission level with the development community and with the citizens about the potential placement of traffic lights and traffic control between the intersection of State Road 26 and 2741 going east to 186th Street. So to that end, the city of Newberry has contracted with Kimley Horn to basically speak with the Department of Transportation and work through some potential locations where DOT feels those signals and traffic control devices should be located, and voice the citizens' concern and the city's concern about that as well. So to that end, we have Allie Brighton with Kimley Horn here. She's going to do a presentation on that area of State Road 26. She has 15 years of diverse transportation engineering experience. Started her career down south in Fort Lauderdale area and moved back up here to the Gainesville area in 2018 to open the Gainesville office for Kimley Horn. And as I said, she has a multitude of experience of working with the development community and local governmental entities as far as traffic control, traffic engineering, and the placement of traffic lights. So with that, that is a test within itself. Sometimes it works,
We don't have
sometimes
anything
it
in the back
does
to
not.
do it.
Should.
A little tricky.
Just thinking about it. The light turned green for a second.
There you go.
Oh,
Keep going forward.
it's going through budget.
Past that.
You don't want me scrolling through? Nope. I can keep scrolling through.
Can you get to it?
It's not in.
Yeah, he's going forward the file. Our apologies, for some reason it did not get loaded up properly on the slide there.
Okay.
Why don't we move to the next item while we are getting that cleaned up? Thank you, ma'am. Let's move to the University of Florida Urban Planning presentation then. I did see that one loaded up. Stacy, you
Yep.
gonna take us through this one?
Let me see where that one is. Are we moving forward on mine? Okay. I'm not sure where that one went.
Tim, they are testing you tonight.
It doesn't matter. No, we're looking for the UF presentation. Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to, I'm Stacy Hectus with the Community Development Department, and we had the pleasure of 2 weeks ago, I think it was, maybe 3 weeks ago now, we received a really neat presentation on something that we wanted to introduce the board to related to form-based code. One of these things that you have tasked us to do, which was rewrite the land development code, one of the things that we're actually examining is potentially doing a different kind of zoning for the downtown area. It's more expansive, it's more flexible is the word for the downtown area, and the presentation was amazing, and we thought it'd be great for them to come and actually make the presentation to you as your first introduction to the form-based code that we want to examine for our downtown area. We have Abhinav here from UF. He is a teacher. He is also married to Uma. Where is Uma? There she is. And so he has his students. He will introduce all of them individually to you, but I think that you're going to find this quite interesting for us to take a look at for our downtown area.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City
evening.
Manager, and the commission members and the public. My name is Dr. Abhinav Alakshendra. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Urban Planning. The graduate students from my course on urban land economics. So it was nothing related to form-based code as such, but then we started talking about some of the important things we could do in the community, and this discussion came up about the form-based codes. And we chose Newberry that, let's try this, whether it is going to work or not. So form-based code is especially helpful for small growing towns. So Newberry perfectly fit the bill. It is flexible, attractive places while allowing, it retains attractive places, allowing for growth. It ensures that a community expands, new building and public spaces fit the character and vision of the town, rather than leading to scattered or disconnected development. So that's why, Newberry was obvious choice. And it began as a routine discussion, as I just mentioned, but it quickly grew into something much more because of my students' commitment. These students...
Doctor, that will advance your PowerPoint unless you want us to do it. That will,
my students will be presenting.
Okay.
I'll just take.
Okay.
So these students invested countless nights and weekends, far beyond the requirements of the class, to ensure their work met the real needs of the community. They didn't just treat this as a project, they made it personal, bringing thoughtfulness, care, and deep sense of responsibility. I also have to thank the Newberry Community Development staff, of course, Ms. Stacy, John Paul, Uma, Chelsea, Nikki Bailey, and Missy. All of them gave inputs, so it was simply amazing. It was amazing collaborative work. I'm incredibly proud of my students, and I'm going to call on John Goodman to give the presentations. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is JT Gurman, and I'm a member of the UF Master of Science of Real Estate program. And together with an interdisciplinary team of my peers, we helped work with the city of Newberry to determine the best way to preserve what matters while grow for what's next, which led us to the ultimate conclusion that a form-based code is the better situation than single-use zoning for the downtown CRA. As a brief aside, during my time as an undergraduate, I had the opportunity to volunteer in Dance Marathon, where I actually served as the captain for Newberry High School. I've been coming out to the community for the past 3 to 4 years and have truly grown to love this place. When I learned we had another opportunity to create a project that benefits this place, it became personal. If we can. To go over our outline, we're first going to understand Newberry, its past, present, and what change can mean in the future. Additionally, we're going to go over what a form-based code is, its potential impacts, and why now would be a great time for a community to make the shift. Ultimately, we will conclude with how Newberry can make this vision a reality. To begin with the introduction, as we all already know, Newberry's downtown developed in the late 19th century due to mining and rail commerce, where it quickly became a regional trading hub thanks to the Florida Western Railway and phosphate mining. Early downtown architecture featured traditional wood frame buildings and brick buildings like you see on the left. What was created was a small, tight-knit community with bankers, merchants, general stores, and boarding houses clustered around the railroad supporting the mining operations. A true small town was bustling in the downtown. What happened over time? Well, at Newberry, as with everywhere else in America, the automobile was introduced, which drove the town's outward expansion. Additionally, traditional use-based zones were implemented, which shifted the downtown from a live-work area to just a commercial area. As a result, businesses and residents moved throughout the suburbs, which further reduced the downtown's vitality and further auto development in the downtown, reduced walkability, which meant less people wanted to live there, creating a cycle in the downtown. You can see in the historical images how Newberry used to be very clustered in the 1930s to where we are today. What are the existing conditions? As we've talked about, Newberry is single-use zoning right now. Although this is the common practice in America currently, there are several problems with it, especially when it comes to accommodating rapid growth, which Newberry is undergoing. The population growth in the last decade is over 48%, with 5% increases projected in the near future. Additionally, the upcoming FDOT project poses a major change for the community, although it represents a unique opportunity to reimagine downtown through a one-way pair system which could be fully utilized in a form-based code. The strengths of Newberry are clear, with clear land use distinctions making management very straightforward in the future. However, there are weaknesses in single-use zoning codes that limit the downtown's overall vibrancy and walkability. However, an immense opportunity does exist, with public population growth and infrastructure improvements creating the perfect moment for new zoning approaches. Although, the threat does exist of maintaining current zoning, which could result in continued sprawl and infrastructure costs for generations to come. Let's show you what we mean. So this is the current zoning map for downtown Newberry's CRA. Each different color is a different use, meaning you can build a different type of building there. The black outlines are parcels that are currently vacant, and meaning that the zoning probably isn't ideal for the site. What we see is a really disjointed picture that happened over time because of the rise of the automobile. What we want to propose is something much simpler and more efficient. A form-based code. 3 simple transects. T5 defined as the downtown core, represented in the dark blue. This aligns Newberry Road, Southeast First Avenue, and US 41, the primary commercial districts. From there, you would have a transition zone, T4, a lighter blue commercial area where you still have a mix of residences and commercial districts. Finally, you have T3, the residential area, the periphery where most people live in single-family houses. This looks a lot simpler, but let's understand what a form-based code is before we jump to conclusions. What is a form-based code? As the name suggests, it focuses on form rather than land use, and it does so by transects, which you can see in the image on the left. It does so by different intensity, with T5 representing the urban downtown core. We thought this would be a great fit for Newberry, transitioning from there to a general urban area with a suburban zone at the outer edges of the CRA, representing the transition to rural and agricultural lands. What this ultimately does is it promotes walkability and a sense of place through clear standards by transects, promoting unity across land parcels. Additionally, it encourages the free market, as uses are allowed freely by transect, rather than something being commercial intensive or commercial automotive or office. Whatever the use is of the building, as long as the building's form fits, it is an allowed use. Additionally, it emphasizes building form with heights, materials, and setbacks, ensuring that the historical character of Newberry is preserved and any new development respects that. Additionally, it is ultimately governed by the regulating plan, the image I showed you before. Once a form-based code is decided, it itself is really not altered. Instead, the regulating plan is as the town expands and grows. What does this code help prevent? Well, it helps prevent several things. It prevents uncontrolled sprawl because you're encouraging growth within the downtown where it's meant to be. For the same reasons, it prevents the downtown hollowing out, and it prevents a commercial exodus by focusing on small businesses and mixed-use development, betting on community businesses rather than national corporations. It also prevents a loss of character by promoting materials and architectural practices that are true to the nature of Newberry rather than coming from somewhere else. Additionally, it addresses traffic problems by promoting dense, compacted development that preserves the environment for generations to come. If Newberry were to implement a form-based code, here are 5 objectives that we clearly identify as important. The first one would be to reinforce the traditional form of the downtown, that being a compact, walkable core built around the railroad. The next one would be to encourage mixed use, that being retail, residential, and office to boost the overall economic vitality of the town. The next step would be to preserve character, ensuring that any new development respects history and grandfather clauses are included to make sure older buildings are permitted. Additionally, we'd want to promote responsibility, focusing growth at the core of the downtown, preserving green space and agricultural land at the edges of Newberry for future generations to come. Ultimately, this would improve walkability within the downtown, aligning with FDOT's plan to enhance streets and pedestrian facilities within the city. Let's look at this form-based code again. Civic spaces are denoted in yellow. The dark blue represents the downtown. The lighter blue represents the transition. And T3, the periphery, is the lightest blue you see. Let's go over what each of these transects individually mean, going from lightest to darkest, or from the edges of town into the center. First, we have T3, the periphery. The images on the right show you what it could look like. This is a low-density, residential-focused area which represents the transition from the urban core of Newberry to the rural outer edges. It's primarily single-family detached homes, and we'd recommend a maximum building height of 2 stories. Allowed uses would include single-family homes, accessory dwelling units from grandma, as well as small home occupations if you want to start a business but can't find a place to rent. Additionally, we'd encourage small, important civic uses such as churches and community centers, ultimately creating a beautiful place to live in these areas. The next area, or transect zone, that we want to discuss would be Tree 4, the transition between downtown Newberry and these residential areas. This would be a moderate neighborhood that is mixed use with a diverse amount of residential types and small businesses calling it home. It's walkable, compact, and urban form, and would have a maximum building height of 1 to 3 stories, which aligns with downtown and the transition to the suburban area. Allowed uses in this zone include everything in T3, in addition to duplexes, townhomes, small apartments, corner stores, cafes, live-work units, small offices, civic spaces, with the ultimate goal of this serving as the transition between the walkable downtown and the places where people live, creating a place where people can walk to work. Finally, we approach the urban core, which is a high-density, mixed-use, downtown vibrant area, which is very pedestrian-oriented. We'd recommend a maximum building height of 2 to 3 stories to stay within Newberry's character. However, we could allow a 4-story building by warrant for a special landmark. Allowed uses would include everything in T3 and 4, but additional uses would include things like retail, more intense restaurants, offices, apartments and residences on upper floors, as well as key civic buildings such as libraries, the city hall, theaters, and other schools. The main goal of this would be to create a pedestrian environment of wide sidewalks, formal street trees, and street furniture to create a lively streetscape and an active tax base. The intangible benefits of this are clear. A form-based code encourages a walkable neighborhood by having compact development with shops, housing amenities within walking distance, and a reduced amount of car dependency. Additionally, it preserves community character by promoting design standards to ensure that new developments fit the scale and look of existing neighborhoods. Additionally, it stimulates local economic activity by allowing small businesses and mixed-use buildings supporting a local vibrant economy rather than auto-oriented national chains. Additionally, it's very flexible and has long-term resilience, incrementally developing, allowing the community to evolve organically rather than relying on large-scale developments. Additionally, it increases housing diversity, addressing the missing middle housing that can address affordability and demographic shifts. Finally, a form-based code can strengthen public spaces, emphasizing high-quality streetscapes, street trees, and porches to foster a sense of pride amongst the community. Let's look at a case study. This is Littleton, Massachusetts, a town which was growing for reasons very similar to Newberry. There was an MDOT project planned, and they didn't know what to do. What they did was they adopt a form-based code with the goal of enhancing walkability and mixed-use development within their historic downtown. Through architectural cohesion and infrastructure improvements, Littleton, Massachusetts is a much better place to live in today. We can also look at a study closer to home. Green Cove Springs, another city here in North Florida, although a little bit away, just recently adopted a form-based code within their downtown to accommodate this growth for very similar reasons why Newberry would want to do this. A form-based code isn't a new idea, but it does represent the cutting edge of planning and what is best for growing communities. Now let's perform a risk analysis. The benefits of this are clear. The downtown can be revitalized, the character that is here is preserved, and the quality of life for all residents is improved through predictable outcomes, and there are infrastructure benefits for generations to come. However, challenges do exist. There is a learning curve with the new code, but this can be mitigated through informational workshops and proper planning through the city department. There may be owners' concerns about any change, as there should be. However, grandfather clauses and financial support, when necessary, can be given to ensure that owners stay in place in their homes. Additionally, there may be cost increases for new development because of these development standards that are in place. This initial challenge could be met with new businesses bringing down the costs, or over time, nothing worthwhile is easy. There could be increased enforcement pressure if you implement this throughout the entire city of Newberry at once. That's why we would recommend starting with the pilot area of the CRA to see if it actually works. Additionally, there may be public and political pushback if this process is not handled well, but we believe Newberry is such a strong community that can come together to improve the lives of its citizens. Now let's look at the implementation process. Again, we'd recommend with the pilot area of just the CRA district. We want to go from the top picture to the bottom. We would recommend that you target 3 different transects based on the different form standards in the context that we observed in Newberry. Those being the periphery suburban zone, the T4 transition zone, and the T5 urban core once aligned with the new FDOT project. In order to make this work, we hope you would incentivize early adoption, working with developers and community members about exciting people and revitalizing downtown Newberry. Additionally, results must be measured over time through increase in property values, tax revenue to the city, and most importantly, community member feedback. They should guide any decisions going forward. Additionally, the community can be engaged to ensure that all development is good. The opportunities are clear. You can seize the moment and break the cycle. The current combination of political support, available funding, and community readiness is rare and fleeting. There are 6 steps to achieve this. The first one being assessment and visioning. What do you guys want downtown Newberry to be? From there, the comprehensive plan would have to be updated, which you are all in the process of doing. From there, a proposed form-based code of regulations would have to be drafted. From there, the community would be engaged to get feedback on these regulations to determine which ones they like, which ones they don't like, and what is ultimately best from them. From there, you guys would review these codes and ultimately decide the adoption for ultimate implementation and monitoring at the staff level. Now, let's think about this. Newberry, with this plan, can move towards a vibrant future. What does that mean? It means lively civic spaces, with community squares becoming gathering spots with fountains, families chatting, and people playing. It becomes a town with historical charm, yet modern appeal, with renovated historical buildings housing local businesses like microbreweries and cafes, blending heritage with innovation. It is a city of active streets, yet a local economy, with inviting storefronts, diverse shops, food trucks, and pocket parks, keeping streets lively day and night. Flexible zoning allows a small business class to grow and succeed right in Newberry. Additionally, cultural and community events, such as concerts, movie nights, or farmers markets, would regularly draw residents and visitors together, ultimately making Newberry a walkable and welcoming community, with friendly interactions and familiar faces, transforming the downtown into a beloved social hub of warmth and vitality. Ultimately, this is a logical approach. Simplified regulations will decrease the cost burden of oversight and allow local business owners to succeed. We often hear about cutting government regulations in this day and age, but these are the ones that actually matter and affects people's lives. Are they allowed to start a business in their home? In a form-based code, you could be. Ultimately, Newberry could realize the vision. With a form-based code guiding development, our dream of a revitalized, charming, prosperous downtown is within reach. Newberry, we want to help you preserve what matters, but grow what's next. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to answer any questions.
You're hired. Great job. Is Jerry Diedenbach still here? Raise your hand, Jerry. Make sure you give that guy your name and number.
But he helped me out. He helped.
Tell them the story, JT.
Yeah, so I met, so going all the way back, I took planning with Mrs. Diedenbach at UF. I then ended up in the UF Masters of Real Estate program because that is kind of more my focus on like the development aspect of it.
Yeah.
But then in that class, I ran across Mr. Diedenbach and this project, and I unfortunately tracked him down and made him help me out on it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Great job. Anybody on the dais have any comments, questions, etc.?
No, it's like drinking through a fire hose.
Commissioner Maida?
No, we're good.
Okay.
A lot of information, a lot of good information.
Thank you, JT. Appreciate it.
I'll take 15 more seconds. There are 2 more students who are here who were part of the project, Abiril and Ryan. And there are 3 more students who couldn't come. And there are 6 students total. And just to let you know, we have 1 civil engineer. We have a student from Australia who worked on project, real estate student. Then we had planners. So it was a really collaborative project. Thank you very much for this.
Well done. Doc. All right. Are we back on track here, or what do you think?
I hope so. We don't give Ally one more shot since
All right.
she had the ultimate test to start. So.
Thank you. No, all good. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you so much. Allie Brighton with Kimley Horn, as Jamie introduced me earlier. So When Jamie approached us, he asked us to take a look at this section of Newberry Road that's highlighted here in yellow, from 27 all the way out to the east to West 186th Street. As many of you know, there's a lot of development going on in the area. There's a lot of things that have happened, different requirements put forth by DOT related to developments. There's obviously also the one-way pairs project that JT mentioned. So there's a lot going on in this area, and it just took a little bit of time for us to review all of the traffic studies that have been done for the projects in the area, and also just different requirements of DOT. And we met with staff, we met with DOT, try to get as much data download, and then reviewed all of that. So I'm going to start with a little bit of the background, some of the things that DOT takes a look at when they consider things like access and speed limits and all the different things related to State Road 26, kind of give a little bit of context and then what it means for this area, and then I'll get into the kind of the intersection control evaluation part of it as well. So first off here is speed limits. So as most of you are aware, the speed limit as you're coming into town from the east is much higher at 60 miles per hour, and then slowly starts to step down from 50 around the bend at Newberry Lane, then down to 45 near County Road 235, and then all the way down to 35 as you kind of are reaching that urban core there. DOT, when they look at speed limits, they have a speed zoning manual that kind of sets the framework and guidelines for how they look at speeds, and that manual includes references to several Florida statutes that relate to speeds, and these speeds, really what is being said here is that you must do a study to evaluate existing travel speeds, to determine speed limits and to potentially change speed limits. And it also says that per the manual, that the speed limits must be within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed or the upper limit of the 10 mile per hour pace, whichever is less. And just a quick, the 85th percentile speed just means that the speed at which 85% of the vehicles are traveling at that speed or below. So usually they try to keep it, as much as possible close to that. And then the 10 mile per hour pace is the 10 mile per hour that the most vehicles are traveling at. And that could be 35 to 45 or 37 to 47, whatever the true measured speeds are out the road. So all of this to say is that essentially DOT, if there is a request to change a speed limit, they will only do so if the data of the actual speeds proves that it requires a lower speed. That's not to say that they don't change speeds. They have University Avenue in front of campus to the east is an example where they measured some speeds and said, okay, yeah, this is an area, and they dropped it down 5 miles per hour. So that definitely does happen, but it needs to be proven that it's something that they should look at further. The slide I had before with all the speeds, kind of looking back at that, there's some readily available data from kind of what we're calling pre-development, or right in front of where the Publix is now, that showed that pre-development speed data did not support the reduction of a speed limit. Again, this is pre-development. As things come online, this may change. The next thing that DOT takes a look at is context classification. And the context classification is really their system of kind of determining what context the roadway is in. And so in this area, it is what they call C3C, or suburban commercial, in the area from 27 up to Newberry Lane, and then goes to C2, or rural. So obviously you kind of feel that difference as you get past Newberry Lane. It definitely does feel more rural. And DOT defines the suburban commercial as really mostly non-residential. There certainly is some residential, but a lot more commercial type buildings, often large buildings, large parking lots, and access to those kind of more spaced out than like the kind of an more urban core, but still all based on a commercial development. And then the C2 rule is sparsely settled lands, more agricultural, could be still some residential, obviously, but it's much more spaced out and typically less settled. The next thing that they look at is access classification. They have 7 different access classes, and with what is in this section, we've got access class 6 near from 27 to County Road, just about to County Road 235, and then transitions to access class 3. Access class 6 is really kind of less restrictive. It's usually defined by a either painted or non-restrictive median, very similar to what's out here with the center turn lane in that section. And then the access class 3 is more restrictive. Usually there's a physical median of some sort, like the big grass median. Also with these different access class, not only is it the median itself, but it's how closely spaced access can be. And so you'll see in this chart, I've got kind of 3 and 6 highlighted here, and the access class 3, the minimum spacing between driveways and access points is much larger than what's required for access class 6. So just some examples. Obviously, the image on the left is coming into, it's coming in towards 27 with that center turn lane that I talked about with access class 6. And then the image to the right is the more rural section, which is access class 3 with that much larger median and less frequently spaced driveways and access connections. So with all of that, obviously I mentioned the amount of development that is kind of planned in this area. The projects shown here and the kind of parcels are a snapshot of a few things that are either planned, designed, programmed in some way. Someone has come forward to the city and said, we were thinking about this, or they've come with plans. And then the symbols on this map include the stop signs here are for stop controlled driveways. What that means is that on the driveways themselves, there's some sort of stop, just a stop sign, and those will be some of them that are with the initials RIRO, or right in, right out, so no lefts at all at those access points. The ones that say directional means that there's some sort of left. Typically that means it's a left in and not a left out of that driveway onto State Road 26. And then the ones that are notified full access. So most of those are not here yet. They're not part of, they've not been constructed, but a few, like for the Publix, have been constructed, and a few more are in the works, like with Highland Park, Newberry Plaza, and Wynwood Center, that they're all kind of moving forward there. The the traffic signal icons here represent new, what we call ICE signals, and ICE is the intersection control evaluation process through DOT. So I've mentioned ICE a couple of times. What is ICE? ICE is DOT's process that they implemented officially back in 2017 that ensures that new signals, new intersections, major changes on the state roadway system are made through a very specific process that looks at a number of different things. Traffic volumes obviously being one, but safety and costs, both upfront costs and long-term costs, and really make sure that the all of the different factors are looked at and weighted through the process of determining what it should be done on the state highway system. So when is this required? Anytime that a new signal is proposed, or if a major construction of an existing signalized intersection is proposed, or changes in just general access conditions. So the concept that's shown here is from DOT. DOT put this together. It's back from December, and it shows some of the ICE intersections that they have been coordinating with different developments, and also shows the connection to the one-way payers, or the eastern portion of the one-way payers project. We took obviously just taking a quick look at that compared to their spacing standards, and does indeed meet their signal spacing standards between the two that are proposed and also the existing one at US 27. Kind of zooming in, we'll zoom in at each of these intersections. Zooming into the Highland Park intersection, there at Newberry Lane. The image on the right is from the signalization plans prepared for that intersection. What has been evaluated and determined by DOT is for an intersection control type called a through cut. And some of the defining features of this modified through cut here is that there are no mainline lefts. You can kind of see the arrows of the existing left turn lanes. Those come out, and anyone who would be destined to make originally a left turn at those intersections, if it's someone coming and trying to turn onto Newberry Lane, they would just do so at County Road 235, and then the left turn into Highland Park, the development, there are two directional access points that were shown on that map before for the left turns in for anybody headed westbound. And then the other thing is no through movements on the minor streets. Really, the through on the minor streets is the most defining feature of a traditional through cut. And what this means is that anyone leaving this development would either have to make a left or a right. They could not go through onto Newberry Lane. So if they were headed to Publix, for example, they would just make that right and an immediate right into Publix. But if they were trying to head kind of the Newberry Lane area, they would just do that via 235. And then similarly, if someone was trying to access the development from Newberry Lane, if they got to this point and realized that they couldn't make that through, they would just make a left here and then make a right into the next driveway for the development, just to the east of this. Kind of back in the context of the overall, the next item is the intersection for the Wynwood Center. So again, through the evaluation of this intersection just earlier this month, the DOT ICE working group approved the concept you see on the screen, which again is a modified through cut. This one is a little bit different. Again, it doesn't allow the throughs from the minor street, and it doesn't allow the westbound lefts from State Road 26. But it does allow the lefts in from eastbound 26, and the real reason for that is because of those one-way pair projects, there's no way to access this. It restricts any movement in anywhere else from eastbound for this section. So based on all of this information, a couple kind of main points that I made were, number one, readily available speed data does not support a change that was based on pre-development data. Obviously, this may change as more developments are built. There are more driveways, more signals, things like that. Certainly could change traffic patterns, and that could be different in the future. Also, the proposed signal spacing for those two signals meets access management requirements. And then the last item really being that these two through cut things that are intersection controls presented by DOT are consistent with their ICE policy goals, and the goals being improving safety by reducing conflicts at the intersection, enhancing traffic flow and reducing delays along the corridor, and also making cost-effective decisions considering both the upfront cost of constructing and the long-term cost of delay and maintenance of the signals. Again, all of those still considering the fact that they allow access for, they will not go through all of this without allowing access for the developments. Put together, again, this map is a snapshot in time. There's a lot going on here in Newberry, as can just be told by the great presentation earlier by JT and his team. And certainly things are changing day to day, but a quick snapshot of developments in progress. There's a lot coming that certainly can change how this area of State Road 26 will look. I'm here for any questions and appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Ally. Does Dias have any questions or comments? Commissioner Clark?
So, Ally, what's the driving force at the DOT level would not be able to make all these lefts? Are they going to take all these intersections that there's thousands as we drive into Gainesville where we turn left, and now they got this new algorithm that they're using that we can't just do the main thing, that you can't turn left, you can't go through? What is it for?
So with this, they are evaluating any intersection that is proposing a change. So if any intersection as you kind of enter Gainesville is going through new development and things changing and adding, every single intersection will have to go through this same process.
Is this new engineers that are just, this is new engineers, isn't it?
I don't think it's new engineers. I think there's quite a few people on it that have.
We can't fix stupid. People gonna run red lights and do all that. So I know it just blows my mind that the way they're designing these it's just totally not for the people.
The thought process really is improving safety. So you're reducing the number, if you can't make the left there, you're reducing conflicts at that intersection since there's other things going on as well. It's also reducing delay, which is to each of us who are the traveling public, time is money, and that is certainly part of the factor, is they're trying to make sure that people can get to where they need to go.
This particular one looks to me like it's going to enhance problems instead of fix problems with U-turns, that we got to go down the road, do a U-turn to come back in there because we can't turn left. I just this whole quarter-mile intersection, DOT, I understand they're the guru, but something, I'm just telling, this stuff don't work and it ain't everyday life. I don't know who, are you in the meetings with DOT?
Yeah, no, I've met with DOT obviously
On a lot of them?
on these two, but on
mean-
intersections across Alachua County and all over the state, and they have several that are a bit. Obviously, this process they started and kind of implemented in 2017, but it was based on data from well before
Are they
that
doing
as
this
well.
throughout the state of Florida?
It's an entire statewide process, and it is a requirement, and any intersection that we are modifying or doing anything at any point, we have to go through this process. So we're doing this process in a few, I'm personally doing this process for a few intersections within the city of Gainesville limits. Done this, worked with Alachua County, so it's coming up over and over again, and they are considering all sorts of different factors, and really the idea here with the ICE process is to look at it holistically and look at a number of different factors rather than
I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the U-turns in this sector are just going to, I believe we're going to have more accidents than we can ever fathom. People pulling out in front of each other instead of having a left turn, common sense. But there again, people are going to do crazy things at traffic signals. They're going to run them. They're going to do this. And so anyway, I know is this absolutely zero change, no tolerance for change, or is this set in stone?
I think at this point, depending on where things are in the process,
Yes, ma'am.
that's the case. But I think in general, DOT is open to
Suggestions.
and working through things, and especially when these are brought up, just
Are we too far into the rabbit hole here to change this intersection?
I think based on the information that has been presented and the data and the values, I
This is the
don't,
first I've seen this, so I'm wondering.
yeah, this one has been coordinated for a couple years now. So I think there's been a lot evaluated and discussed, and,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, one more question, then we got to move on. But Commissioner Maison? Oh, go ahead.
So if there's like any, with Highland Park, if there's any development to the northeast of it, which will increase the traffic flow, if there's some commercial development there, do they come in and say, okay, well, now you can put a traffic light in? So they spend all the money doing this stupid little configuration they did here. Do they have to come in and spend more money and then to put the traffic light in?
So there will be a traffic light there. Part of that, at that intersection there at Newberry Lane, there will be a traffic light as part of it. What, if there is another access point that needs a signal, that would be to that development, that certainly could get another signal too. Obviously, they would look at the spacing standards and all the different things I talked about before. But when they look at each of these intersections, they don't just look at, okay, this development is coming in, this is the traffic from that development, let's study it for this. They look at it at a period of over 20 years, so they add in additional trips and traffic at the intersection so that they're looking at it from a much bigger scale, so it's not just something that they think will work the day that it opens, but they're looking at the long-term life of the intersection as well.
You the question, they went to traffic school.
Yeah, I know. But I drive the roads.
Do you still need to go?
Well, it was very informative, so I do appreciate it. It's pretty wild how they come up with all
It's not. It wasn't there.
Anything else?
Thank you, Ally. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right, we're gonna move to the public comment, the first period of the night for public comment, but the U.S. students wanted to get a quick picture real quick, so you're thinking about what your comment is for the public. Think through that just a second while we get a quick photo. If you guys want to just stand up here, and we'll have them stand across the front.
There's another.
Well, get all up here at once. I thought that was the one. Thanks, great job. Did I miss something?
This one,
Okay.
that one was the plan, just now we have historic preservation.
Excuse me, I missed the added number 5 for the University Historic Preservation, which I guess is this presentation. Okay. Y'all want to make your way to the podium, and we'll do public announcements right after that. Thank you. You got 15 minutes.
We'll be shorter than that. Yeah,
Okay.
we're on it. Yeah, no.
Sounds
No,
good.
thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Commission and community members for allowing us to present tonight.
Just your name.
I am Dr. Clarissa Carr. I'm a research assistant professor with the Historic Preservation Program, and this is Natalie Cecil, one of my master's students. I teach a class called Interpretive and Graphic Design for Heritage Sites, and we try to implement fieldwork and service learning in our classes. So this semester we worked with Newberry Main Street Organization and Newberry Historic Association and the Community Planning Office to develop what's called, it's an ArcGIS story map. So it's a single scroll website that you can access through this QR code. But we use the resources of the 2023 Historic Resource Survey of the Historic District the 1980s Historic District nomination and other archival sources to make something more interactive, because
Can you move the microphone?
oh, sure,
please?
yes. Because honestly, how many of you have read through the 1980s Historic District nomination or know by heart the boundaries of the
think it's
Historic
just Tony.
District? Just, yeah. Like, I mean,
Tony.
I feel like I know it pretty intimately now, but the purpose of this project was to create something that is more welcoming and helps people just through their phone or their desktop explore these historic sites in Newberry, especially with so much growth going on. You could use it as a walking tour. So Natalie's going to go through the slides and just give a brief overview of what the story map is, and then I'll also be presenting at the May 5th Historic Architecture Review Board meeting in more detail on what the story map is. So.
That may have hibernated. You might just have to turn it back on and
This?
off. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
just On the
Turn on
left
button?
left
Okay,
side.
cool.
Yeah, just turn. There you
All
go.
right, hello, everybody. Like Dr. Carr said, I'm Natalie. So just quickly going to go over what is on our story map. Like she said, the QR code is there, but then it will also be living in the Newberry Main Street Program website. We definitely learned a lot about Newberry, and so I think that it's very interesting, people visiting Newberry, or even if you've lived here your whole life, maybe you'll learn something new. So what our story map has in it, at the top, there's a navigation tab, so we have a little introduction about it, historic context, there's a timeline, there's significant sites, a 360 tour, and then a little bit about how to treat historic masonry and brick. So this is that first page. There's a lot of information in the historic context, all the way from early settlement of Newberry to current date. Then we have a timeline. We have two different maps on here. So one features buildings that were demolished, but anybody who goes onto the story map can click each of those little pinpoints, and it'll give information about when it was built, the architecture style, and just like a little blurb about the history of the building, which I thought was really cool because there's a lot of buildings that I've seen, even just passing, and I'm like, I wonder what that was used for before, and that kind of tells anybody who goes to the site about it. Here's a 360 tour of Newberry, the Newberry Street. Another tour with the district, historic district line. And then the information in this section is about the treatment of historic masonry and brick, which we compiled from a very, very dense PDF file. So it is a lot more digestible in this format, we feel like. Of course, we linked all the resources that we used at the end. So if you did want to go peruse it at your at your free will, you can. But this just talks about why it's important and then the different things you can do. And like we've been talking about with all the revitalization and preservation that's happening in the downtown, especially with a lot of these buildings being brick buildings, we wanted to include that in the story map as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but if not, I appreciate your time.
Natalie, would this be able to incorporate, I've been in towns where you can walk near a building and there's a little stanchion with a QR code. You click on it and it takes you to a page that gives you a bunch of information about that feature or whatever. Is that something that can be incorporated into that?
I think
You know what I'm
so.
talking about?
It's possible. You could definitely print out like a sticker of the QR code, and it would bring you to this page in general, and then you could find the site. But there is, I think, a way to make it where it would be like a specific QR code and a specific house for each one. So for future planning, it's something that could be done. I think so.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Like one comment, I just hate losing the building next door. I mean, it's not even showing on here now.
Which one?
Well, it's gone, we demolished it, that was actually the drug, yeah, the drugstore.
Was it within the past 2 years?
No, it was
5 years, 6
3
years ago?
to 5, yeah. It was where the, actual vaccine for, we wouldn't have cows in Florida if it wasn't for it.
Right,
For Doc Berry.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been learning about that, the screw room.
screw one
So
is developed right
we'll
there.
make sure to feature that, because the great thing about this is that we can keep going in and updating it over time, so,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Maison?
Yes, so along with Tim Martin's idea, which you hit it, with the QR codes being posted in locations. So with Coleman's ordeal, are they able to put like maybe a pole with a placard if they entertain Tim Martin's idea with a QR code, scan it and say, oh, I wonder what was here? Draw more
We were
people in.
supposed to do that when they demolished it. I mean, it was eat up with bugs, but we were supposed to put a plaque out there. Monty remembers.
It's definitely something that could be done, and speaking as historic preservation faculty, I'm happy to work on this sort of things in the future. As former Mayor Merlin is, I'm happy to partner with that sort of thing. So the class may be over, but the research and history keeps happening, so, yeah.
History keeps writing.
It does.
All right, thank you, ladies, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now to the first point of public announcements or comments. You got 2 minutes to talk about anything particular in the community. Mr. Diedenbach?
Yeah, good afternoon, or good evening. What a wonderful day we have here today. I really appreciate you all paying really close attention to the study. As you know, we are working on the Highland Park subdivision. We're working on Tanglewood with Gary Wiesman. We're working on the SAP property on the north side. I've worked with Miss Brighton before. She's a brilliant engineer and a good presenter. I think this is something that we do need to keep our fingers on the pulse of, though, because I think about Commissioner Maison and a brown truck trying to make U-turns to go into that neighborhood, and when there are 300 or 400 people and families living in that neighborhood, I got to believe, based on my 12 years of being a transportation planner before going into land use planning, that having a controlled movement across Newberry Road makes sense in the long run. And as I've discussed with Jamie and with others, there's going to be a point where those U-turns are going to be swamping that road. And it's not as safe as having controlled turn lanes where you can sit and stage and wait, or having dedicated turn arrows. And looking at that along the corridor, their priorities are movement of traffic and safety, obviously long-term cost, and then the operation. So we need to continue to monitor that, because as we're installing the signal for that, we want it to be the safest thing for all citizens and visitors and first responders that have to get in and out of these communities. So I think y'all kind of heard that.
Fair enough.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Naeem? Mr. Urchet?
Naeem Urchet. First off, I want to congratulate Tim Martin, Tony, and Donald. Welcome aboard. It's going to be great. To their point, since DOT's here and they're stressing about, the safety and crossing and how many, 300 somewhat citizens, this is the same FDOT that stated that we don't need a traffic light on 15th and 27th when our kids are coming in and out of school, before and after school, where traffic is backed up all the way to the elementary school. We've even offered to give them the traffic light, and they said, not on our road, we don't want it. So I just find it interesting that they care about this big intersection, which is great. But we also have a big problem that is ongoing at the elementary school. That traffic is backed up. I've even, as the HOA president of that Oakview Village, petitioned to you guys to put something there to stop people from using that residence as a cut through, because people are tired of waiting in traffic, that they go against traffic, almost hit kids that are walking in that neighborhood, just because that stop sign doesn't have a turning lane to turn into US 27th, but yet we're so focused on a U-turn on Newberry Road for Highland Park and all these other properties. That's great. I'm not denouncing that, but I think we also need to look at the problem that we have currently. So if FDOT right now is working with us to look at this, I think this is a great opportunity as Mr. Mayor for the commission to put this in their limelight again of, we definitely need some sort of traffic calming
to protect our kids that are walking to the middle school and to the elementary school every day. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rochek. Anybody else? Mr. Mack?
How are y'all this evening?
You got 2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes. It'll be faster than that. I wanted to just report to the city about our spring festival that we had on April 5th. It was a complete success. It was a little hot, a little sweaty, but I think everybody enjoyed themselves. Without the help of the city, we can't pull these things off. So I do thank the city, all the city workers, all the management for helping us pull that off. A couple things to look forward to. We have a annual banquet coming up in June. We have Splash Days, which is June, July, and August. We collaborate with the fire department and bring a nice, wet, cool place for all the kids of Newberry. There'll be a little bit more information on that. And my last thing is we have the Watermelon Parade coming up. That is not Main Street, but we will have a float in the parade. And I would encourage all of you to come ride on our float with us.
Okay.
So, all right, awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else before we move to the consent agenda? Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any discussion on the motion to move the consent agenda? Any from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimous. All right, public hearings. First one we're going to do is the budget amendment and the quarterly budget update, and then we'll go to the new item for planning and zoning appointments. Who's got this?
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the resolution to put it on the floor. This is resolution number 2025-12, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time is to pass resolution number 2025-12 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Amanda, you got the floor.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Amanda, and I am your Acting Director of Finance. Tonight, I am here to provide you an overall budget amendment, or budget update, and to recommend some budget amendments for approval. As of April 2025, the city is 58% through its fiscal year. Overall, we remain in compliance with the adopted budget. This slide provides a snapshot of the general fund's budget actual as of April. The actual expenditures are the red bars, while the blue expenditures are the budgeted amounts by department. Overall, all departments are in compliance with the adopted budget. There are a few budget amendments in addition to the roll forward items that your team is recommending for approval as follows.
Amanda, I got one interruption. Is the blue bar the full year? So as we go along, the red will eventually catch up to the blue?
Correct.
Or they're
Yep.
not relative at the
Yep.
moment? Okay.
So the blue is the whole fiscal year budget, and then the red is the actual as of April, what's
Okay,
actually
so
been
it's good
spent.
if the reds are about 58% of the
Correct.
blues?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Was there another? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So we're going to start with the general fund. Budget amendments for revenues are recommended and are primarily driven by the sale of right-of-ways for the state one-way pairs project, and also by donations for the Veterans Memorial Park. On the expenditure side, main cause for budget amendment is the transferring out of reserves related to the prior year Veterans Memorial donations, and the reserves are just going to go to a special revenue fund that you'll see in a subsequent slide. For the Capital Improvement Fund, a revenue amendment is recommended to recognize unbudgeted interest earnings. On the expenditure side, amendment is recommended to correct a few budget discrepancies, mainly relating to payroll and operating costs. Just as a side note, in regards to the City Hall construction, we are on budget. Everything's looking good thus far. For special revenue funds, the main revenue amendment reflects the correlating transfer in of the Veterans Memorial prior year reserves. In regards to expenditures, we're recommending increasing for the use of transportation impact fees to fund the gap between the original budget original budget amount and the awarded amount for the contract of the Southwest 15th Avenue repaving project. For enterprise funds, Revenue budget amendment is recommended for interest earnings. And then the expenditure budget amendment is proposed for hurricane-related payroll costs. And then just as a budget update, we have finalized our FEMA reimbursement claims for Hurricane Debbie and Milton. And then Helene, we've actually received the funds back. And then we're in the process for Helene right now. So everything's looking good. Okay, so finally, for the internal service funds, revenue budget amendment is recommended to correct omission of administrative service fees for customer service, internal service fund. While the corresponding expenses for the other departments were included in the original budget, the revenues were just inadvertently left out. And then finally, an expense budget amendment is recommended mainly to correct the vehicle equipment replacement fund depreciation expense. This concludes the budget update and recommended budget amendments for your approval. Your team has no concerns over the budget at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions from the dais? All right, seeing none, the resolution has been read into the record. Do I hear a motion? All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Long, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion on the dais? Seeing none, any from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The opposed, same sign. The ayes have it with Commissioner Mazon out. Motion passes, or the resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, so we are on to the planning and zoning appointments. I gotta find that in my packet here.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be
Stand
happy to read the resolution while you're looking for that, if you like.
by. Sure.
This is Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Board
All the way in the
of
back.
the City of Newberry, Florida, establishing calendar year appointment terms, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. Whereas the city board and committee procedures adopted by the city commission requires the appointment of the members to the Planning and Zoning Board, now therefore be it resolved by the people of the City of Newberry, Florida, that the following individuals are hereby appointed to serve the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Newberry, Florida for the appropriate terms hereinafter set forth, commencing with the effective date of this resolution. Tim Martin, our mayor, non-voting ex officio city commission representative, which serves in conjunction with his commission term. There is a seat that is vacated now by Donald Long's election to this board, and his vacating the prior Planning and Zoning Board position that he had. This will be a one-year extension of the term, said term to end April 30th, 2026. Ann Polo will continue to serve. One-year extension of the term, said term to end April 30th, 2026. Catherine Thomas, one-year term of extension of her term, said term to end April 30th, 2026. There's a vacant position, one two-year term. The term ends April 30th, 2027. Vacant two-year term. Again, another vacancy, which is the term that will end on April 30th, 2027. All resolutions, parts of resolutions in conflict with the resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of conflict. Resolution shall take effect upon its adoption. Signature for yourself, Tim Martin, our mayor, Judy Rice, our city clerk, and myself. As to form and legality, the appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2025-05 as read by its entirety, with the additions of adding the three vacancies to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Good evening again, Stacy Hectus with Community Development. You'll remember possibly back in January when I brought this originally to you to take a look at because we had missed the April of 2024 reappointments. And so what I'm asking is the City Commission to do three things. Approve the extension to April 2026 of the two PZB members whose terms expired in April of 2024. Ms. Ann Polo and Ms. Kathy Thomas are still interested in staying in those seats, as was Mr. Long, until he, with Mr. Long running and winning the commission seat, his vacant seat will also need to be filled, and that would be one of those continuing on for April of 2026. And then we need to also consider appointments for April 2025 for 2-year terms to expire April 2027. Mr. Naeem Murchid, existing. Ms. Melina Parker, existing. We have 2 new candidates, Ms. Jessica Carey and Ms. Tiffany Castle. So I'm asking the board to help fill some of those vacant seats.
Is Ms. Carey and Ms. Castle here?
Yeah, Ms. Carey.
I don't see Ms. Castle.
Okay, Ms. Carey's here.
Okay,
Ms. Castle's not.
okay.
Nope.
Very good. Potentially the easiest to dispose of is, let's just kind of go one at a time. For the extension of the approval of Ms. Polo and Ms. Thomas, what is the pleasure of the commission?
Yes.
Your second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Clark. Any discussion on the extension of those 2 existing members? Any from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. We'll extend the 2. That'll take care of item number 1. And then let's actually entertain, in similar fashion, Naeem Murchid's extension and Melina Parker's extension. Considering they're both existing, they would go until the 2027 term. What is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Long. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Farnsworth in dissent. Leaving the open item of appointing either Ms. Carey or Ms. Castle in the seat vacated by Mr. Long's election to the commission. That will also be a term that runs through 2027. We have one of the candidates here. Ms. Carey, if you want to come forward and.
It will be till April 26th. It's a continuum, fulfill the
Pardon me.
rest of his
Yes, okay.
seat through April 2026.
Pardon me, so it'll be basically a 1-year term.
That's right.
To sync up with that
Yes.
particular seat.
You got
Ms.
it.
Carey, do you want to come up and give us your pitch? Not that you're required to, but we've got your application. So.
Yes, you have my application. I have significant experience in governmental accounting. As long as being here for the last 3 years, I've been very heavily involved in the community. I plan on being here for many decades to come with my family. So I'd appreciate your approval of my applicancy to the position, and I plan to help utilize my experience from coming from a very small town that grew very fast to help guide this community with suggestions necessary in this role.
You know you work a lot for free.
Yes, I absolutely know. It's a volunteer position. I absolutely know that. What was that?
Yeah, it's like $50.
Mr. Mayor, our P and Z members get paid a whopping $50.
It's 50. It's 50. It's $50. Okay, hold on there. Mr. Attorney, how do we need to handle the vote? Verbally, written, for the record? Does it matter?
Verbal's fine.
Okay, verbal's fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have 2 candidates. I heard a motion for Ms. Carey and a second for Ms. Carey, but which one was which? I didn't. Okay. Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on the candidate?
Very involved. Very, I think we're lucky to have her.
Okay. All right. The motion has been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on the nomination? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Ms. Carey, welcome aboard. Thank you. Passes unanimous. Okay. Now, back on track with New 16, authorizing application of the CDBG Neighborhood Revitalization. Mr. Attorney, could you please read Resolution 2025-16?
Yes, sir. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, authorizing the city manager to make application to Florida Commerce Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program for funding neighborhood revitalization, new street pavement, sidewalks, and wastewater collection/transmission. Repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion, the appropriate time is to pass Resolution 2025-16 upon its reading by title only.
Yield to Laura.
Good evening, Commission, Mayor, City Manager. My name is Jane Sullivan. I'm the city's grant and funding manager. And I hope this works. Oh, I wore my glasses this time so I can see. The reason for this is HUD requires a second reading, so it's the same information as the first, other than requiring a resolution and approval from the commission to submit the application itself. So the strategic goals will remain the same as last time for effective transportation and searching and maximizing grant funding. The CDBG is administered by the state of Florida. They call themselves Florida Commerce now. And this time, we're submitting an application for $1,532,000 and $532,617. The last couple of years, the rules only allowed us to submit for up to 700. So because of the 3 hurricanes back to back, this is very important for the city. This will get us to the road paving and the stormwater that is needed for this particular section of the city. The service area meets the requirements that at least 51% of the residents are very low to moderate income. This is the same map that was introduced before that shows the color coding of the different income levels. And then for the application itself, should have been in your bid packages, and it's also going to be available at the city clerk's office for anybody in the community to review and comment on anything that they feel they need to speak on. The first activity is the new road and pavement for a total of $1,183,628. And basically, it's 255th Street, starting at 2nd Avenue, going all the way up to 6th. And then you have 3rd Avenue, which is not included for the street and pavement, but then you have 4th Avenue that goes from 255th to 257th, 5th Avenue that goes from 255th to 257th. They're dirt roads right now, so they will be paved. It's what HUD considers new pavement. Then there'll be sidewalks on the same roads on one side of the road. And then there'll be new sewer lines and components. This is my Achilles heel, but thank God Jamie is here. So if you have any questions, but it's 350 linear feet of gravity pipes. And then there's a couple of sections where they need the PVC pipe laterals, and then a manhole. And I know you can't probably see this map, but hopefully it's in your package. But it's also thanks to Nikki. This is a phenomenal map. It helped me to understand what side of the road the wastewater is going to be, what side of the road the sidewalk is going to be contained. So it's an excellent map. Any questions?
Commissioner Maison?
Yeah. I think it's 254th and 6th Ave going up to 7th Ave. Am I looking at it correctly as far as it being paved? You know what I'm talking about, Jamie? I think it's 7th Ave, right alongside MLK, that dirt road that goes along the track.
Mr. Mayor, it's 255th from 2nd Avenue all the way to 6th, with MLK is right on the west side of that. And it would be Northwest 4th Avenue, as Jane stated, between 255th, 257th, Northwest 5th between 255th and 257th. The only segment that's depicted on that map that is not being improved is the section along the actual railroad right-of-way, what is designated as Northwest 3rd Avenue, but that isn't actually a dedicated city street, even though it's used as an access road. The wastewater improvements that Jane mentioned would be from Northwest 5th Avenue south on 255th for about 350 feet, pick up the laterals there, sidewalks from 6th Avenue down to 4th and 5th and back over to 57th.
Okay. Now, I just had concerns because with MLK, at one point, we were talking about closing that off and expanding that parking lot out, so I was just making sure that wasn't gonna be.
No, just within the road right.
Got it.
There's still room to improve the parking lot on the east side of where the restrooms.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
All right, any other questions or comments on the resolution? Okay. The resolution's been read into the record. What's the pleasure of the dais? You want him to reread the resolution?
No,
Okay.
it's just a second reading, right? So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any further discussion on the resolution on the floor? Seeing none, any from the public? Seeing none, back to the dais. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, unanimous. The resolution passes. Thank you, Ms. Jane. Okay, I've got new 17 vacant property. This is the first reading of ordinance 2025-007. Mr. Attorney, you want to read that in while we?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing Chapter 14, Article 2, Division 4, Section 14-135, and creating Chapter 14, Article 2, Division 6, City of Newberry, Florida, to be entitled Registration of Foreclosing Mortgages and Vacant Property, providing for purpose, intent, and applicability of the ordinance, requiring the registration and maintenance of certain real property by mortgagees and vacant property owners, providing for penalties and enforcement, as well as the regulation, limitation, and reduction of registrable real property within the City of Newberry, providing for severability, repealer, codification, and effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2025-07 upon its first reading by title only.
Very good. Okay, well, this is just first reading on this particular ordinance. Ms. Hectus, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening again. So our recommended motion this evening would be to adopt ordinance 2025 on its first reading. And again, this item will come back for its second reading Tuesday, May 27, 2025 at 7 p.m. if we don't have any issues this evening. So why are we here? We are here to update the current ordinance to best practice standards. It is the purpose and intent of the City Commission to establish a process to address the deterioration, crime, and decline in value of City of Newberry neighborhoods caused by property with foreclosing or foreclosed mortgages located within the City of Newberry, and to identify, regulate, limit, and reduce the number of these properties located within the City of Newberry. While we have had a basic process with findings and best practices from other local governments, staff believed it was an appropriate time to update our ordinance and place it in a better location for those needing to find it. Poor Danielle had a hard time locating this ordinance where it currently was, and if the attorney has a hard time finding it, it's time to move it, so we did. And we went ahead and we have an online registry for folks to register with. Before I get to the current status, I can give you a little bit history of how we even got the ordinance in our current code back in 2014. As you're well aware, in the 27-28 crash, there was tons of properties all over many municipalities, counties, everywhere. And so as a result of that, they started this registry process. So all the mortgage companies are all very well aware of this stuff. We just wanted to make sure we had a very clear process going forward. 2014, when we put it in the first time, Dallas has been around to some municipalities, seen some better ways of doing it, and so we've taken that example and updated our ordinance with that. So our current status on these properties, there are 10 parcels on the HERA foreclosure and vacant registry. That's who we utilize, HERA. And after visiting the parcels, staff found 3 of the properties recently sold, 2 properties are posted for sale, and 5 properties appear to still be in the foreclosure process. There is only 1 property that will need follow-up, and that is due to an unsecured pool and an abandoned vehicle, which will probably be taken care of in the next ordinance. There was only 1 property sufficiently posted. So we have, as you have read in your ordinance that you will see in your documents, we have gone ahead and updated the ordinance to the best practices, and we're going to ask that you adopt the ordinance 2025-07 on its first reading, and again, it'll be heard May 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Any questions?
Mr. Clark?
Stacy, what is I see where we're at and what we're updating here, but where
Yes.
did we come from? Is this updating, totally redoing this ordinance?
Yes, we're repealing and replacing it because it wasn't in a very easy to find location.
So that's all we're doing?
Yep, we took it out, we're putting it
Putting it
in,
back?
and then we're adopting the extra pieces of the best practices that other folks are doing.
What are the best practices?
The registry. That's what,
The registry?
the registry is the best way to go, because now everybody that is in the mortgage world and foreclosure world knows exactly where they have to go. As a matter of fact, they talk to Janine or Greta or someone in my department. When we hear it, we see them, they put them right on there, and then that helps us for monitoring down the road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question. I had a citizen contact me about a snowbird property. Does this apply to them?
No, because if you look at the definition of vacant, you'll see that it says no power, grass growing over, leaves, trees not trimmed. Most snowbirds, they're paying someone to mow their lawn for them, and they have not disconnected their power, so they would not be classified.
Okay. The only other thing was, the signage is like 18 by 25 or something like that. Is that even a common size piece of paper?
It's signage. I mean, it's
And where's that?
it's a
It's in
standard.
the window, front window?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're supposed to be able to technically read it. You can't read it from the road, but you'll be able to see that something is posted.
I saw that it said 45 feet.
Yeah, and then you can get out and walk up if, you needed to read
Is it solely for foreclosure properties?
Foreclosure foreclosure, whether they're, have a house, or vacant. They've gone vacant.
And is that registry public
Yes, it is.
accessible?
Yep,
So the public can go on it? and look at it?
absolutely, yep.
And it's usually the servicing company that does all that, and that will go in and winterize it and stuff like that.
That's right. Most of the properties that we've encountered, and Greta can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of them already have a property management corporation. That was another thing that came out of that whole housing crash, is that somebody had to start managing these properties. They were just everywhere, and now we have the registry, and it makes it a lot easier for us to track them.
Okay, all right. Very good. And further discussion?
I have one question. So what happens with a property that's not vacant and it's not walkout? Or it's for sale?
It's not vacant, someone's living in it, call Greta.
It still would fall under our traditional code.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
Any other further discussion? Any further discussion from the public? First reading is 2025 vacant property registration ordinance. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Passes unanimous on
motion?
first reading.
We didn't do a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not?
No,
We just
motion.
read the resolution. Sorry.
Motion.
Commissioner Mazon and Commissioner Long. All right, I assume there's no further discussion now, but let's revote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Motion passes on first reading of the ordinance. Number 18, abandoned vehicle ordinance, update 2025-006. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing and replacing Chapter 94, Article 5, Abandoned Vehicles, Section 94, 121 through 94-125 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing for definitions, prohibitions, impoundment, and applicability of the ordinance, laying out the process for abandoned vehicles within the City of Newberry, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, codification, and effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2025-06 upon its first reading by title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Ms. Greta, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Greta Moreau, Code Enforcement Officer for the City of Newberry Community Development Department. Tonight, I'm asking that present a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-06 for first reading to approve the repealing and replacing of the abandoned vehicle ordinance number 2025-006, thereby allowing city staff to impose an abandoned vehicle and removal process within the City of Newberry, Florida. This item will be heard for second reading on Tuesday, May the 27th of 2025 at 7 p.m. The city has a vested interest in protecting the streets and neighborhoods against the presence of abandoned and wrecked vehicles by imposing an abandoned vehicle removal process within the City of Newberry. Abandoned vehicles lead to a decline in community and property values, creates nuisances, lead to general decrease in neighborhood and community aesthetics, create conditions that invite criminal activity, and foster an unsafe and unhealthy environment for our citizens. Updated to the original ordinance that's there is we updated the definition section of the ordinance. We repealed and replaced the impoundment section of the ordinance by 1, removing the disposal of vehicles as junk, 2, removing the sale of vehicles, and 3, adding the vehicle removal process that I'm recommending. Removal process, abandoned or wrecked vehicles on a city street, on a highway, or on a city right-of-way will be removed by the following process. Placing a vehicle removal notice, which is, and I brought one this evening if you would like to take a look at it, and I'll pass it around.
This is in the backup.
I peeled the back edge for you so that you could feel the stickiness of the label that I'm requesting, recommending. It does not leave a sticky residue on the vehicle. In the past, I've worked for entities that it would stick and would not come off, and then it was just a nightmare to deal with. This will stay on until they're ready to remove it. I would place that on the driver's side windshield, alerting the vehicle owner or premises of the vehicle and to remove the vehicle within 10 days as stated on the notice. If the vehicle constitutes a hazard to the environment or community, such notice may require the vehicle to be removed immediately. And that would fall under leaking oil, things like that, or if there's broken glass in the community where there's kids and potentially could be harmed, that would call for a removal immediately. The owner of the vehicle shall be liable for the removal, the storage, and the disposal of the vehicle if the removal is authorized by the city. I'm in contact with A1 Towing out of Alachua. They currently tow for everybody. FHP, Alachua, High Springs, and Alachua County. Their process is I pick up the phone after the 10-day notice has been placed and the vehicle's still present. I pick up the phone, give them a call, they come and tow it, and they handle everything at that point. There is no fee to the city. All the charges go straight to the owner of the vehicle for the tow, for the impoundment, and then after that, if there's no contact, then they start the process that the state allows for them to take ownership of the vehicle. Again, no fees at all, charges to the city. This is a map just showing at least a few vehicles that I'm aware of, that I've received numerous complaints on, that I've been unable to do anything about at this stage. This is what stemmed this process, the request. Motion to adopt ordinance 2025-06 on the first reading to approve the repealing and replacing of the abandoned vehicle ordinance number 2025-06, thereby allowing city staff to impose an abandoned vehicle removal process within the city of Newberry, Florida. This item will be heard for second reading on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Commissioner Long?
So the process of abandoned car, let's say a resident puts a cover on the vehicle. What's the process there?
So if I have already deemed and seen that the vehicle constitutes an abandoned vehicle, and that would be no tag, expired tag, or wrecked vehicle, they would then have to prove to me after I see it, they put the cover on, they'd have to still prove to me that they have brought that vehicle into compliance. And again, these are only vehicles on the city streets, on the right-of-ways and the highways. These are not on private properties.
So, okay. But I'm saying they put a cover on a vehicle that's in front of the yard in the street.
If I've already been able to determine that vehicle's abandoned, they will have to then come to me and show me that it's no longer abandoned.
Okay, so a couple questions. Is there a time frame?
10
on
days.
Which, 10 days, no,
One-
from when you put the notice on it, I get the 10 days after you put the sticky note on it. Is there can I keep a car on the road, like out here for like 30 days? Before you deem it as, hey, this car's been sitting here for 30 days with a tag that's valid with all the credentials that.
I believe we have something, and Stacy and JP can correct me, in our ordinance that might say 72 hours on a city street. If there's no
72?
movement, is that JP? Put you on the spot. We may have to.
Trying to find out what is considered abandoned and just.
Yeah, the code calls them standing vehicles. The general rule is 72 hours across most of the jurisdictions that I worked in. I don't know the exact one for this particular city and our particular ordinances, as it's not in the land development regulations, which I'm most intimately familiar with, but I wouldn't doubt it would be a period greater than 72 hours to consider it a standing vehicle in the right of way.
Okay, so then I would answer your question.
Well, that kind of deal hurts.
I'm not, let me just correct something if you don't mind. I'm not towing a vehicle that's just sitting on the street more than 72 hours if it has a valid tag and it appears to be operable. These are vehicles that I can tell are inoperable, flat tires, broken windshields, obviously no engine, no transmission in the vehicle. Cobwebs, stuff under the tires have been there for, those kind of signs I know to look for. But just someone that's leaving a vehicle parked there that has a good tag and appears to be, that I'm not doing that.
Commissioner Coleman?
Well, I mean, I'm just, because like Newberry Oaks, everybody and their brothers got their car parked out on, but I guess that's city roads, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't work. So.
Fair enough. Okay. Commissioner Farnsworth?
So this just applies to city roads, so someone on state road, it wouldn't.
State roads
wouldn't have
as
any
well
jurisdiction?
as, yeah, it would.
Okay.
State roads as well as our right-of-ways.
Okay, and we don't have any ordinances prohibiting people from parking on the road right
If it's
now,
a
do we?
legitimate parking space on the state
No, I'm talking
road?
about just people that
Blocking the
like you
road?
said, out in Newberry Hills or wherever they park on the street.
But they're parked, those folks are parked in a legitimate parking space.
Oh, they are?
Yes, sir.
So question.
Well, the ones I'm thinking of are. There could be someone else that
There's a
I'm.
lot of people that just park right on the.
Oh, well,
I don't think we should be, I mean, this is me personally, I don't think we should be allowing people to park using our streets as their parking spot. I mean, they have a garage there for a purpose, so I mean, they fill the garage up with junk, so they can't park it in the garage, so they end up parking it on the street. But, I mean, this is totally separate from this.
Yes,
but
sir.
Just the way I feel about that.
The abandoned car, Mayor.
Mr. Long, then
So if you put the notice on a car, let's say they move it,
put your microphone.
let's say they move in their driveway, how does that process work?
Well, then that changes my process.
Okay.
Because I'm going from being able to tow to now I'm going to have to issue a notice of violation to the property owner for that vehicle being on their property at that point. I will not be towing from private property.
Okay.
Commissioner Coleman?
Well, that pretty much answers it. You're not gonna tow from private property, but there is other neighborhoods, even some of these older neighborhoods where they park out on the road. But like you said, I guess what makes it clear is it's not an operable vehicle. Right,
That's correct.
okay, I don't see a problem.
Okay, Commissioner Maison?
Yeah. Okay, so not on private property.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at a map, that neighborhood across from the school, those roads are maintained by them. Wouldn't that be considered private property?
Which school, which property?
Oakview,
Oakview Village.
middle school.
Oh, okay.
Oakview Village.
Unless I'm looking at the map wrong, you have a dot in
Is
there.
that, yeah, no, then that's my mistake. Is
Okay.
that privately owned?
Yeah, they're white.
Then yes, I will not be
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
correct.
that.
I'm sorry about that,
You're
yeah.
good.
Is that where you park your vehicle?
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
so the common sense of, I don't want to start giving a lot of authority for me personally, because we done got off on a tangent on a boat that looks pretty dang nice, and we've been in a magistrate's hearing for that. But if somebody pulls in and stays, the night or a week, they fly out to go on a cruise, basically, I'm just saying that it's the common sense approach. You're not looking for vehicles just because they're more than 72 hours. We ain't tick marking tires.
No, sir.
We are basically looking for serious abandoned vehicles just to get them out of the
Correct.
community.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Credit, on your recommended motion, can you put that up for me? It says the ordinance is 2025, and we're replacing ordinance 2025-06. I believe that's supposed to be the original ordinance that we're replacing, if I'm reading it correctly.
It's the same.
No, it's the same.
It's the same ordinance.
Same ordinance. We're just, you're gonna adopt ordinance 2025-06 on first reading, and that's to
But
approve.
we're replacing, the way I'm reading is we're adopting it, but we're replacing 2025-06, the same number.
No,
I feel like
sorry.
we should be replacing, I don't know, 2023-0.
No, forget the second sentence.
Okay.
I got one more question, Mayor.
So did
Okay.
you say the replacing the prior abandoned vehicles
Yes.
ordinance?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Commissioner Coleman?
How many total cars abandoned right now?
Right now,
Yeah, because like you said, some of them
Five.
there's 5 out.
5 that I'm aware of, yes, sir.
Okay.
That I've been getting
Just one more quick one.
Constant
constant.
complaint.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One more.
One more. How did you come to the conclusion to get A1 in Gainesville? Because I thought we have local tow companies. Is that a conflict?
No, I just called Alachua A1 because I knew that they were close enough, and they have their own compound, their own yard to take it to. So that was just, and once I heard that they towed for everybody, and they are already specifically, he was able to provide me with some of the ordinances that, and I was able to take a
We
look
don't
at
have
that.
any local boys that can tow
Well, not that I'm aware of.
with a compound?
We don't, that's what the problem is around
We
here,
don't
the
have anybody
compound.
local? That's my question. Do we not have anybody with a compound? Okay.
Not right now.
Not that I can think of.
That's the one that told,
Okay.
Yeah.
But they don't have a compound.
Got a resolution read into the record, but I don't have a motion yet. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Second.
Commissioner Coleman and Commissioner Farnsworth on the second. Any further discussion on the dais? Any further discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor on first reading signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, unanimous. First reading passes on the abandoned vehicle ordinance.
And we'll be back in May 27th. Just see the second.
Yes, ma'am. Large-scale retail. Stacy, I take it you're walking us through this one.
I am.
Do we
with
have
the
anything to
help of John
read
Paul.
first?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have a reading, guys.
Ordinance number 2025-05, LDR 25-01, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending the text of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations as amended, to amending Appendix B of the Land Development Regulations, specifically Article 2, Section 2.1, Article 4, Sections 4.2, 4.10 through 4.15, and 4.22, all relating to the establishment of development standards for large-scale retail establishments as defined herein, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2025-05 upon its first reading by title only.
Very good, Ms. Stacy.
All righty, so I will walk you through this process as to how we got from where we were to how we got here. So for this evening, our recommended motion is to approve an ordinance 2025-05. We've gone backwards on all these. I guess we should have started at the top. But on first reading, amending the land development regulations related to large-scale retail establishments, development standards with planning and zoning board recommendations. So as you can see here, we always tie all of our work and exercises that we do to our strategic plan and goals and objectives. We have the goal future-focused roadmap for community planning, our objectives to align land development regulations with the revised comprehensive plan, and then the third, the D13 is to enhance development design standards along the primary corridors. So we'll go through this presentation and we can answer some questions along the way if you have any along the way. So large-scale retail, as you are well aware, we have had multiple discussions on big box and or large-scale retail development for, I guess, a couple months now, more than a couple months actually. And so one of the things that we came back in January and asked if we might be able to take a look at putting the large-scale retail meat of the ordinance into our overlay district, and so we'll get to that in just a second. But we've defined large-scale retail as establishments that shall mean a single building that occupies 60,000 square feet of gross floor area or greater and serves a regional market. Large-scale retailers include, but are not limited to, membership wholesale clubs that emphasize bulk sales and discount home improvement, sports equipment, furniture, farm, and department stores. Retail uses that do not meet these criteria are classified as retail sales, unless otherwise noted in this code. The square footage, trip generation rate, and use for the purposes of this section shall not include ancillary service and self-service stations or out-parcel developments. The 60,000 is interesting because we started with 80,000, and so at the end, we're going to go through what the Planning and Zoning Board is recommending, and then we'll go back and summarize those to see where we come to agreements on. So we're going to give you an example of what might be considered an example of some large-scale retail development patterns. As you can see there, there's a subject property that happens to be a Walmart. It's, I think, 2,000 square feet. I think we meant a little bit bigger than that, obviously. That's the size of some of the homes around here. So I think that was supposed to be in the 30s or 40s. No, sorry, 60s or 80s. So 60 or 80,000 square feet is what most of the Walmarts are. So here's a pattern. We took a trip out to, sadly, to Chiefland and saw nothing but a parking lot and a building. And we stood there and said, we do not want this here. So this might actually be an aerial of that actual parking lot that we went and visited. So here's a good typical scale of retailers that we have. We have the 2,000 square foot, it's a Main Street retailer right downtown here. And then you get a little bit bigger, and those are around 17,000 square foot. Those are the CVS's, the Walgreens type stores. Then you get into the maroon color there, which is 50,000 square feet. Those are the large supermarkets, you know, what was it? Publix came in at 65,000, was it? 68 total with the building on the sides. So, and then you get to the aqua color there, which is the 125,000 square feet. Those are the Home Depots and the other wholesale retailers. And then you get to the dark blue, which is the 250,000 square feet Walmart supercenters. Some of them can be that big. So how we got here, that's what I was talking about. It's been more than months. It's been over a year now that we've been dealing with the big box, before I ever got here, actually. And so in March, you received a presentation on big box. In June, you approved a stay, which is a ZIP, zoning in progress, on new retail applications over 80,000 square feet. In August, just after I got here, we got an additional direction to staff. And then in January, we brought it back, and we wanted to ask if we could incorporate it into the overlay districts. And then April 7th, the PZB recommends adoption with additional amendments. So the PZB wants to adopt with the additional amendments, so we'll come back to this slide if we need to, unless we put it later, so you can see some of the suggestions that they made. They believed that the large-scale retail was 60,000 square feet, not 80,000 square feet, so that's something to consider. Overlay should apply to entirety of contiguous unified development. So if you had your parcel, and then you had your building in the area of the overlay, wasn't just that front piece of the overlay that it had to handle. It was the continuation of the rest of the building and the property within the overlay. Widen the buffer zones as follows: Zone 1, 15 feet to 25 feet; Zone 2, 25 to 50 feet; Zone 3, 50 feet to 100 feet. We think that there may need to be some drawings to help depict some of that stuff, so we may look into getting some help on depicting some of those drawings and what those mean as we go down the pike. And keep in mind, these are coming in from 202 in, so you're going 202 to the west. So when you're out in near 202, it's much more, you're coming from the rural area, and you're going to start to see the commercial developments. And so as you get into the speeds, and you just saw earlier the presentation, it almost mirrors some of the speed limits, and as they drop, the buffers come in all the way down to 2741. They wanted to consider a fourth roadway buffer zone. I think staff has actually done the drive a few times, and we may not need to go with that fourth one. But again, some drawings of typicals might help get to that decision. Wider sidewalks were requested in front of the businesses, and 15 feet appears to be what they're looking for. The maximum height of 42 feet within the district. They don't want us to go any higher. Some of the examples that we had in one of our drawings, they had, it was 5 or 6 stories, and that's just, it's a little bit too much, we think, within the corridor. Maximum caps on parking provided above minimum required, and that would be considerations for reductions in parking for shared parking facilities. You know, you're going to have a Walmart and some other retail places, instead of calculating parking for each individual space plus the big Walmart, you end up with so many parking spaces that they're only parked at Christmas and, 2 times a year maybe. We don't want to do that. We want to maybe give some credits for shared parking. And a possible administrative mechanism as we go through the process to approve some of those options.
I have a question.
Yeah,
That 42 feet, that's like 2 stories.
4. It's 3.5 stories basically. So you're looking at 10 to 12 feet per story.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just under 4 stories.
Is that all climate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if people could not do that for an attic if they wanted to, but that's kind of what we're looking at as far as a height limitation goes.
How tall are the buildings over in the
Where?
square, yeah,
I'm sorry?
Country Square.
Country Square?
Those are 2 stories, so what are those, 20?
There's 3 stories. You got, only one building has, but 2
3.
buildings have 3 stories.
Yeah. I don't know. John Paul, do you know what the height is on Countryway?
Probably around 30.
Yeah.
They're about 30, 35 at the most.
Yeah. So 42 is about what we saw some.
And how
yeah.
tall would you say the Walmart in Chiefland is?
30 something maybe, not too tall. They have a bunch of, the actual height is, they have some false fronts on it, so it looks taller than it is. But if you could look at it this way, it's only like this narrow.
Okay, same thing with like a Lowe's, like a Lowe's and Gateway.
Yeah, some of those get a little taller because they do actually store their stuff inside the buildings, and they actually get a little taller, but a lot of them we'll show you some things that we actually have comments from Mayor Martin on bringing it down to like human scale. And so we can talk about some of that, but you can take those taller buildings and actually make them look more human in nature or bring them down to your size. Oops, sorry. Some of the other areas that the PZB stated were some of their concern was the monolithic structures lacking small town character, just boxes, straight square boxes. Consumer overlap with local businesses, occupying more land per square feet of retail than traditional developments, large and underutilized asphalt parking lots leading to excess job creation, generally nets minimum wage jobs. So we had some discussions, lots of really good discussions with the Planning and Zoning Board on a lot of these issues. So our initial findings, so the current zoning code does not address any of the large-scale retail or the big boxes, you're very well aware. Large-scale retail co-locates with high-traffic roads. High-traffic roads would be our State Road 26 and US 2741, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to take a look at adding some of these regulations to our overlay district, because really that's the same pattern as our overlay. City desires to preserve small-town character and local businesses, and city established overlay district design standards along those same corridors I just mentioned. Some more changes proposed to address is maintaining the existing greenway, as you know, coming in from 202 in, making site and building entrances easily identifiable, making sites easy to navigate, and making sites and buildings implement traditional design standards associated with small towns and pre-World War II building standards. Housekeeping changes not within the overlay standards, and that was added the large-scale retail to the definitions, deleted conflicting design requirements in 4.2.36. We had overlapping landscape requirements, and we just wanted to make it clear in one location. And we added the large-scale retail as a special exception in commercial districts, and we prohibited in the commercial business district and the commercial neighborhoods. Those are too small scale to put something that a large-scale retail would be in, so we prohibited in those two commercial districts. The changes that we made in the overlay standards, we updated design requirements. Additional slides ahead, we're going to show you some of the what we're talking about when we get to those slides. Remove staff exemption ability. Exemptions will be granted by appropriate board at time design is considered in public hearing. Design is approved by the Board of Adjustment via site plan. Authorizes the city manager designee to allow field changes, and it don't change the character of adopted design. Added special exceptions unique to overlay district, automobile sales, RV, boat, and ATV sales. Added prohibited uses, mobile home and manufacturing home sales. Ancillary outdoor storage is visible from the right-of-way. Some of these big box retailers like a Lowe's and a Home Depot, they have almost the same size of their building as storage on the outside. So we have to consider those things when we're looking at from the right-of-way in, what we're going to do with some of those things. We didn't feel, that's right, they're all out there, but we didn't feel like you wanted mobile home manufactured home sales out on the main corridor coming into the city either, so. And again, these are all up for discussion. I think, should we turn it over to you, John Paul, now for these? Thank you.
Thank you. John Paul Perez, Principal Planner with the Community Development Department. The next few slides are going to be just summaries of the changes. First, we're going to be talking about our current code, those design requirements, and then what we've done to enhance those design requirements to help preserve that small town character and address some of the concerns that come with big box in the overlay district, where they'll more than likely be located along high traffic corridors in the city. So these are the current design requirements that are in the overlay district currently. The developers only need to select 3 of these 10 choices. Some of them are overlapping in their requirement, which could lead to an under-design of structures and not fulfill the intent of having a design code in the first place. And this slide just highlights some of those duplications that exist in the code or in the design requirements, and we took a stab at enhancing that, and we'll get to that shortly. Other concerns regarding the current overlay design requirements is that they do not adequately encourage small town character in the site design. More compact or necessarily addressing the street. Even though most of these are on corridors that have speed limits of 60 miles per hour, there are those buffer zones that exist there that'll taper as you get closer into the downtown, into the core. But having those buildings and sites address the street, so you at least have a representation of what is traditional design for commercial properties. Duplication of requirements, like we just saw, and there is no address currently for the large-scale retail establishments or big box. And there were a lot of avenues for staff to do administrative approvals that would potentially divert or be different from what the board saw to what would actually be constructed. And so we wanted to remove those and make those all just part of the application, and have any changes that are approved at an administrative level just be field changes that don't change the character of the design, so the board is not confused when they go to see a project in its finished state and it looks very different from what they saw at public hearing. So
Can you give us an example of a field change?
A field change may be like and Jamie may be intimately familiar with these, but there would be like a relocation of something, perhaps a change in like a sconce that they would be using on a wall, maybe some changes in the type of landscaping they put into an island because of limited availability of a certain species. These would be minor changes that to the untrained eye would be unnoticeable. But for us, we have a document that is essentially a legal document that we need to follow. And those changes, we do need to have the authorization to make those minor changes that don't essentially change the character of what was adopted. All right. So let's, instead of that one table of 10 design requirements, we now have 2 tables. One table is requirements, and the second table is optionals. These optionals, they must select one. Not each one is applicable to a property. There may be instances where an optional may not be applicable perhaps at all. We can't conceive every scenario that would come before the city. But there are choices for them to make to further enhance the design of the property. The required categories are building location orientation, parking lots, walls greater than 50 feet, roofs, entrances, windows, building massing and shapes, and this is the overall shape of the building, and this is intentionally or targeted towards the unboxing of the big box to give it more variety in its massing. Yeah. Outdoor dining areas, which we don't have too much of yet, but we expect with further commercial development that outdoor dining will become eventually a thing in the city of Newberry, and just addressing some of those concerns in advance to provide Florida appropriate outdoor dining. And wall signs. The optional categories are somewhat repeating of the required ones, and they just provide additional options for them to choose from. So again, building location orientation, parking lots, walls greater than 50 feet in length, roofs, entrances, and windows. We'll get into some of the zoning district and use changes now. So we deleted the design requirements and the supplementary regulations, which is has become, yes, sir.
Let me pause there, since we got a lot of information that we're going through, to give the dice a moment to ask a question. Anything before we move on? You get with us so far? Okay.
I was curious, what you showed a picture of the Walmart in Chiefland, which I agree, I mean, it just doesn't look good, but do you have any pictures of a Walmart or a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something that would fall under these requirements that we're making?
Yeah, in the backup slides, let me see, I can probably, and these are going to be pulled from previous presentations that I think were provided to the board, and specifically of a Walmart. Not sure what this is or where this is, but here you can see there's some variety provided to the big box next to the phrase opening 2026. Would be something that would be compatible with the code as provided in the draft ordinance. Not the site layout, though. The site layout doesn't meet the requirements. This is another example of breaking up the massing, the image on the right here, where you've taken the different elements of what may be inside the men's section, the sporting section, and just rearranged that so it's a more interesting shape from the exterior. Adds, it's less oppressive of a structure, less industrial of a structure, and more relatable.
That's pretty bad.
Give it more character.
Yeah. Here are, this is a neighborhood Walmart. These are a little bit smaller, grocery store only Walmarts. Here it has, you can see it has a very prominent entrance. It's got a covered entryway. These are all things that have been added to the code that weren't previously in the code to address, local, human scale, and easily identifiable entrances. You're in a sea of parking lot, and where's that entrance? This is clearly an easy identifiable entrance, so you know exactly where to go. Some additional requirements are like enhanced pedestrian ways, so you're not competing with cars in the parking lot. For our residents that may be wheelchair bound, this will be a safe path for them to get to the front entrance and to cross that, primary access drive that usually is perpendicular. This is a Rural King, also something that would be consistent with the code as proposed in the draft ordinance. Locating the sign central, it's a pretty large sign, but it cues you into where you need to go, what you're going to, how to get there. Really easy to navigate, and adds a bit more interest than what you would see at the bottom right image there, where it's just a flat wall with two different colors and a simple sign. Again, you could probably find your way here, but does that say small town to you? Does that say Newberry to you? I feel like the image on the left says, hey, you're in Newberry. Our downtown has decorative brick buildings, and this is just replicating what was done, a century ago today.
Okay, we'll go back to 4.
All right. Did that address your question, Commissioner? Yes, sir.
So zoning district use changes.
Yeah, let me go back here.
Your favorite, right?
All right. So I'll try to be quick. Zoning district use changes. 4.2.36 prescribes all design in the city limits for commercial and multifamily properties to be Florida vernacular. This code hasn't been applied. So we're going to remove it. It conflicts directly. It's considered architectural determinism. An example of this would be Seaside, Florida. I believe that's where this may have been pulled from. If you've seen The Truman Show, that is Seaside, Florida, and that is what's being replicated in this code. We're removing it, so it allows folks, it doesn't jive with what the commission was saying with the overlay initially, which was more of like a rural type design. You want stone, wood, glass, brick, stuff like that on these buildings, and not necessarily, lap board siding and decorative elements over porch, and more of a Bahamian tropical style, more of a rural rustic style for the city of Newberry to go with its agrarian history. So removing that, we incorporated portions, the good portions of this from 4.236 over into the overlay. So we didn't completely abandon it. We pulled what was good from it, incorporated it into the draft ordinance, and then went from there. Large-scale retail establishments are, again, anything over 60,000 square feet will come to the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Adjustment as special exceptions. That special exception is there for the Planning and Zoning Board and for the Board of Adjustment, this body, but with different hats on, to determine compatibility with the site, surrounding properties, et cetera. That's going to be in all your commercial districts, CG, CI, CA, and CH. Our central business district and a commercial neighborhood are designed and intended for small-scale development in the downtown or in neighborhoods, and so wouldn't be appropriate to have large-scale in those particular areas, so we made them prohibited. And retail is generally not permitted in other districts, the type of retail that we're looking at here. So there was some discrepancy with the district boundaries. The map that was included in the code as adopted is not consistent with the table. Former Honorable Mayor Jordan Marlowe helped clarify. He sat through, as well as this body did, through the presentations with CHW, and it's actually the table that is consistent with what his recollection is. It seems more appropriate. So I'm going to get into the map. Again, the district aligns 2741 and State Road 26. And this table here says that Zone 1, let's just use State Road 26 going from downtown to Gainesville as an example. And it's so it's within the USA only. This table defines it. And so going east and Zone 1's from the 2741 and State Road 26 intersection out to 231st Court. So that is just east of Newberry Lane, the Canterbury Equestrian Center. That would be your Zone 1. That would be 15 feet there for a landscape buffer. So that's Highland Park, Publix. They would have a 15-foot buffer. From there out to 218th Street, which is a private street, and then on the north side of it goes into the mines. That would be your Zone 2, and that would be a 25-foot buffer. And what is that? That's just west of Destiny Community Church. So think Destiny Community Church to 202. That would be your Zone 3, and that would be your 50-foot buffer. Then anything beyond 202 is agriculture in nature. So you don't generally need to worry about those areas. They will address themselves, and definitely don't allow for the type of development that would have a large-scale retail establishment. It's outside of our urban services area. So addressing it just within. And now going to the map, you can see here it goes, this is the old USA in the dotted blue, and it goes well outside of the USA. And so I don't think this is what was intended to be adopted. This is the map that was created by Nikki Bailey, our new GIS analyst, and I think this accurately describes what's in the table, and I think this is what the code, what the commission intended to adopt. So PZB concurred that this was what was intended to be adopted, and also looking for acknowledgement from this body that this is consistent with your recollection of what was adopted.
Just have a head nod on that.
Yeah, straw
Well,
vote.
it was
It was the old one, and we went and squared up.
We squared it up.
Yeah,
Any heartache with this?
while I was in the hospital.
Seeing
No.
affirmative.
Awesome, thank you. All right, now we're going to get into the meat. I will try to be quick. Again, sorry, this is a long presentation. So 2 tables. The first table, required minimum requirements. The second table is optional improvements. We address some of the site elements, site design, parking lots, building design, and exterior treatments, amenities, and outdoor dining. It's kind of like the snapshot of what's happening here. These are the categories that I went over previously. Just wanted to give you images to show the examples of what's being done by the code. So it's a little bit more translatable. The words can get technical and confusing even for myself. So this is Butler Plaza. Here, I just wanted to show you the examples of the largest tenant would need to be located furthest from the right-of-way, or not closest to the right-of-way. The parking aisle and drive aisle, only 1 drive aisle and 2 parking aisles between the roadway buffer and the first building. So you have your out parcels generally close to the street. Your drive-throughs would need to be oriented perpendicular to the abutting right-of-way. So your drive-throughs would be on, windows would be on the sides of the building, and then the smallest end of the building is addressing the street. This is similar to what you see with Aliano's currently. This is similar to the McDonald's and the Jonesville Publix that you see currently, and is just generally the pattern that has been acceptable and tends to work. Yes, sir.
Does this create a queue for cars along the roadway, or are they going to be perpendicular, like coming from behind, so that when they're at the drive-through window, they're basically facing the highway?
Unless,
or is it going to be the other way?
yeah, unless Popeye has like a new fried chicken sandwich, I think we're going to be okay. I don't know if you guys experienced it up here, but it was a madhouse down south. We would hopefully address that in site design, where we would have enough queuing. There are going to be instances where
on the service side. You
yes.
guys understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
It would wrap around. We would hopefully on the site plan show you enough. We haven't identified in our particular code currently what an adequate queue is for a drive-through based on either square footage or other sort of criteria. So that's something we can look at as far as having a sufficient stacking space, vehicle stacking space for drive-throughs. That's just something that's used in other jurisdictions. We can look at applying it here.
Chick-fil-A's always a good one, JP.
Yes, sir?
Chick-fil-A's always the best if you want to talk about a drive-through.
It's a science with them. Yeah, they got it. Yeah, with the tablets,
and everything. So
they have 3 drive-through lanes. They're covered now, so
Yeah.
you don't have to be out. Yeah.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. They're out there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I got a question, John Paul.
Yes, sir.
Okay, like where it's, where the front ones are the drive-throughs.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna be where they, like this, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but, where the drive-throughs are, you still have to go back towards, I don't know if that's Walmart or what that is right there, Target. I mean, is it gonna be where you don't have to, they're not allowed to go out onto Archer Road? They have to go back?
Internal circulation.
Right, and it goes back towards Target, and there's a mid-road there, and then you go out the side. Is that how this is?
Yes. We haven't dictated that service roads or interior access roads are required. However, we would encourage it, and ultimately, larger unified developments like this should have some sort of integrated traffic circulation system. We would, like Highland Park is coming in, they have a service road behind the front array of parcels. within those front parcels, they have cross-access between each one, so you won't need to get out onto the service road or get out onto State Road 26 to go from one site to the next site. We have site plan applications in for Advanced Auto Parts, and I think we have another one coming up soon. McDonald's is probably locating there. We haven't received their application yet, but have had a pre-application. So you wanted to go buy a car battery and then buy a burger. You didn't have to get out on State Road 26 to do that. You could do that within the site. Yeah. And there would be two roads for you to do that. There would be the cross-access along the front, which would run parallel with State Road 26, and as well as the service road in the rear, which is more for deliveries and trucks, like garbage trucks, but is still usable by site users, so you can drive on that road as well. It'll only be used very rarely by those vehicles, so, yeah. It is 3 ingress and egresses, one primary, which is where they want the traffic light. That's been the primary focus of the Highland Park development, but there are additional ingress, egress, one close to, sorry. Yes. Yes, and also close to the stormwater pond to the west.
South of the stormwater by Dr. House.
That as well, yes, on 242nd, thank you, Mayor.
The one next to, on the east end, to the northeast corner, dumps out onto 26.
All right. This is just a closer image so you can see. What was being shown there in the graphic. This is our current Publix. I think this is the first day it opened, that morning of. They had that large shopping cart, golf cart. And so see, these are some of the design requirements. We do need to go back and revise some of these. Some of these requirements I put in I'm learning as we're going through this, may not be feasible. One of them is scoring at 3/4 of an inch. I understand that 5/8 of an inch is more appropriate, so I'm an 1/8 off. But those are things that we can amend. And certain, yeah, and those are de minimis in nature, honestly, so, yeah.
There will be a field change.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just going to go clockwise around this, starting at the top left. Protrusion and material change being shown by the pillars provided on the front of the Publix are now going to be required for walls that are greater than 50 foot in length. The material change, we require at least 3 different materials, and stucco doesn't count. Stucco is a typical finish that needs to be applied to brick anyway. So it's as if it's a brick wall, which we would not allow. Prominent entrances, again, you park, you can go to the entrance right away. Varying roof lines, that's currently in the code. We're carrying it over. Great recommendation. The stucco scoring you can see here along the facade, it just breaks up the geometry of that entrance, gives it a little bit more interest at little to no cost. Shading for multi-tenant buildings. We do live in Florida. It gets hot. People do want shade, so we are requiring it now. I don't know what the length of these sidewalks are, but looking at Jonesville Publix, the smallest that sidewalk gets is about 15 feet. An additional option for folks to do to break up long lengths of wall is to provide landscape islands. They can provide that within the walking area to help reduce that cost of the extra concrete, and also provide some sort of cooling effect and natural environment for folks while they're going from store to store, or going straight to a store. And then lastly here, a centralized pedestrian path from the parking lot. So this is not carried throughout. This is just from the parking lot, the beginning of the parking lot to the entrance. We need some sort of designated pathway for pedestrians. They went ahead and did it themselves, and they actually have a few there with some stop signs. Makes it more comfortable for pedestrians to cross without feeling like they're competing with the cars, and that they replicated what they did in Jonesville here. It's a little bit more narrow. The one in Jonesville is probably about 40 feet wide, The striping here, it looks like it's a 5-foot wide pedestrian path. Yeah, we're not prescriptive on that, and we can deal with that as it comes through for design. Which are looking to address mansard roofs. Fortunately, that skipped Newberry in the 70s. So you don't have many of these to deal with, but we are asking for a little bit steeper of a roof. The next image you can see here, these are the apartments that are located in town of Tioga. This has a not so steep as a more shallow mansard roof. Mansard roof being like a parapet with a faux roof next to a flat roof. So it gives the impression that there's a full trussed engineered roof system, but there actually isn't. With the steep one, you can obviously tell that it's a flat roof building. With the more shallow, you can't tell, and it looks more natural of a roof line.
This was also the one that planning and zoning liked because it had the very different change in the brick to the top, and they were comfortable with no more than that height. That's when we got into our height discussion, was this photo right here.
Yeah, we are requiring that multi-story buildings have some sort of change in element between the ground floor and the upper stories. This is to create that human scale that we were talking about earlier. Makes buildings less intimidating or overbearing. It's kind of a feel or a vibe, I guess the kids call it nowadays. The landscape islands also is an option for them to put in to help break up some of that asphalt. This is just at pedestrian scale or at Google Street View scale, a camera on top of a car. Perspective of that 2 parking aisles and 1 drive aisle. This is Tioga. This is also showing the covered outdoor seating area. We're only requiring 25%. We do want to have folks to have the option to dine in the sun or rain if they want to, but also at least require the purveyor to provide some sort of shading for their patrons.
So they also loved the stormwater pond in the front.
Yes, I will get that in a second. I have a slide showing that. For metal roofing, corrugated panel roofing, not permitted. Metal roofing does need to be standing seam. That's pretty standard for commercial development anyway, and is a higher quality product, will last longer, look better longer. Parapets, we are limiting to 5 feet. That's just pretty standard. Oftentimes parapets get abused for extra sign area and don't necessarily represent the actual shape of the building. We're encouraging better design through the interior space and not utilizing faux treatment of the exterior space to make up for design. Weeping and drain holes will be on service side of the building only. Weeping holes being those gaps in bricks to allow moisture to come out, and drain holes being where flat roofs don't drain through some sort of central drainage system, but drain on the side of the building. They tend to develop algae, and doesn't look good. So. Louvered screen panels or other opaque wall for rooftop mechanical equipment, just to shield some of that stuff. I think on DCC you can see some of their rooftop mechanical, but if say this DCC was to come in today, they'd have to screen that entirely, so you couldn't see any of the rooftop mechanical. I don't have an image of it to show. Service ladders must be on the service side of the building. Outdoor dining, at least 25% covered. We are requiring that 15% of the volume be of a large-scale retail specifically. This is not for your multi-tenant buildings, et cetera. For a large scale, that the 15% of that be allocated to something else. Articulated entrances and arcades will not count towards this requirement. So these images or graphics have been added to the code to give examples of adding or subtracting from the big box to give some more diversity in the shape of the building, to add more interest, and optional site amenities. This is in the center of the Tioga Town Center. This is just a small little park that utilized some underutilized roundabout space in a very clever way. We'll skip past this. I wanted to go over the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations to see which ones the commission wanted to accept, so we can start incorporating those into the draft ordinance and answer any questions that the board may have. A lot of stuff, sorry.
Say that again?
You're
done?
I am.
You're done. I'm sorry, I glanced over at what else we have coming up next. All right, we'll take it to the dais for comments, questions, etc. Commissioner Coleman? I know this is probably the part of the backup that I spent the most time. I probably spent over an hour reading through all this stuff, and I thought that it captured everything that's been part of our discussions. And maybe Commissioner Long, you had the pleasure of sitting in on the P&Z first review of this. All what John Paul's gone over, is that a fair representation of the summary of everything that went on at that meeting?
He was not at that meeting.
I don't know about that.
He was not at that meeting. However,
No.
I watched it.
Jordan Marlowe was there. So citizen Jordan
Who's that?
Marlowe was there.
Yeah, so I'll just bring it back to the dais, as far as any other comments or questions.
No, it's just, it is a great overview, but a lot of this is gonna come, we're not gonna vote on this detailed stuff. We're gonna be, staff's gonna.
That's
come
what
up
I
with-
wanted to get to. So this is not, this is the first reading, but this doesn't this is more for you to give us direction based on planning and zoning had these different options. We wanted to get from you all the direction on how to go and come back to you again, integrating what you feel needs to be put in and not put in, and then bring you more of the solidified. This was to give you pictures and show you what we were talking about, more so than just a first reading.
Understood. Commissioner Coleman?
Well, everybody knows I'm not a tree hugger. I mean, that's just not me. But that gum, they raked it down here. Them were some fine live oaks. And they took every daggone tree that's out there except what's over on Mark's property. That can't be in here.
Actually,
Because one thing, in Palm Coast, they got a Walmart in there, and by God, you won't know it until you get inside there. I mean, some fine
Crystal
live
River.
oaks in there.
Crystal River has the same.
Yeah,
Their
and I just don't understand why number one, which is, I know it's a whole different subject, but how did we allow that? But, I mean, we should be requiring, if there's live oaks out there, well, I know that if there's a pad there, you can't, it's gotta go. If it's part of where, but other places on the property, that doesn't have it, we should be trying to save it. I don't know, man, now I do sound like one, don't I?
You do.
Okay. I knew it, but.
John Paul, you want to address that, and then we'll go to somebody else?
Certainly, yeah. So we have added a section about champion trees. Champion trees is a term used by FDP, and I think Alachua County is considering something very similar at the moment about large species of trees that are unique to an area. The state keeps a registry of champion trees, which are the largest of their particular species. Each county or each city can keep their own registry of these trees that are unique to this particular area. And these are the granddaddy oaks that, as children, you probably played around, or school teachers told you stories about that tree's been there before George Washington, et cetera. I mean, I remember those stories growing up. We are looking to preserve those areas. Those trees don't exist by themselves, though. That's something to keep in mind. It is part of an ecosystem. Those trees feed other smaller species, but they also in kind share resources with those smaller species. And so that ecosystem is something that I'm not too educated on, and I don't feel equipped to provide this board with expert, testimony on. But it is something that we have addressed by allowing owners to identify these species, or the board to identify these species on a property and require preservation of them. It'll be a voluntary commitment, but it will be in the form of an agreement. So there's at least something there. If the tree becomes sick or ill, that's fine. But in the example of Oak Village, I believe it is, the Dave McDaniel development off of Fifth Ave, he preserved an oak in the roundabout there, and it's a singular tree, and I understand it's not doing very well because of its lack of ecosystem that goes with that. It needs the water, it needs the sugars from the other trees and other plants in the area, and so a tree by itself is, it's a lone man, so. It can be only so strong on its own. So something to also consider when we're looking at preserving these is not just that tree. It's probably going to be a cluster in that particular area for the success of that tree to be long lasting.
I'll just go down the line. Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Farnsworth?
On that note, Publix took off those trees out of that area too, but they wouldn't have enough room to build what they built without taking those trees out, so I don't know that it's necessarily it's necessary to have that thing, but I understand where you're coming from. It looked good, but.
Well, they dug them out of that bottom that runs through there over here across the road from Publix.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna build nothing in there unless we're gonna allow them to, put dirt in there. It's gonna have to be built up 15 feet.
And
But that whole bottom in there, they yanked out those big old live oaks.
eventually they die anyhow. What difference is it gonna make?
I'm a hugger now.
I know you are. And
Dadgum tree hugger.
those trees over there by 1906, they finally died, and we had to remove those. But anyhow,
When they're done with their possession.
I think this thing kind of needs to be taken on a one by one basis, case by case, and we can't just throw everything
I think
in
we
one
should
thing.
walk
But
around and replant trees everywhere.
yeah, I know how you are.
Are you?
No,
are you
I'm not done yet.
Are you done, Bob?
No,
Come on, man, I got all night.
I know we talk. The other thing is, I'm not so sure I would like to see automobile sales and boat sales and stuff on the main drive either. I think it's part of one of the things that they said would be okay, but I'm not so sure I
I
would.
think they were
I'd
included
be
in
okay
special
with that.
exceptions so that we'd have to allow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got you covered there. Commissioner Long?
Yeah, I just like the aspect of adding more than 15 feet, like they do at Publix with the tree in between the sidewalk. Adding that aspect to it gives it a little more character and adds some aesthetic to the building as well. So I think I like that aspect.
Yeah.
Is that directly in front of the businesses?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Maison?
Yeah, is there a tree mitigation fee? How does that work?
Our current tree code is an Arbor Day Foundation copy paste. Not to say that's bad in any way, but it is difficult to work with for developers. The mitigation requirements, if implemented, are pretty onerous for the removal of anything over 12-inch. The requirements, I don't have them memorized.
Is it 12-inch or 45?
Anything over 12-inch on the list of regulated species requires mitigation if removed from the site during a commercial application review. Water oaks are not on that list, so you would be able to go ahead and remove laurel oak at will. But the other species like a shoe-marred oak, definitely a live oak, our bald cypresses, our loblolly pines, etc. Those trees that we see that are very prevalent in this area do require mitigation.
Yeah, it ain't no tree hugging in it, brother. I like it. I mean, I'm a big proponent of, hey, look, we ain't like everybody else. I mean, everybody puts lots down. What do? They just square foot. Everything goes put down parking lots. I mean, why can't we work around trees and have parking lots, you know, in between the trees? Be a little different, be Newberry, be something different. You know, I kind of got foggy listening to that McDonald's coming here, but, you know, why can't we, I agree with them, 100% more green, keep it.
And Tony, that whole bottom over there, I've looked at the site plan. I don't even know why they cut all those. And man, there was some big.
Yeah.
Yeah, GrowMax is here tonight. If you wanted them to address the decision to raise the property.
You can't put it back. You can't put it back.
At this point, no.
Don't really matter.
No.
Can I get clarification from Commissioner Farnsworth?
Absolutely.
You said you did want or did not want the sales, the auto sales, the boat sales?
I did not.
Did not. Thank you.
Except in his yard.
Okay, if there is no further discussion here on the dais or comments, anybody from the public like to speak on the matter? 1, 2, 3, going once. So we've got a resolution read into the record. I don't believe we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Clerk, can you clarify?
We do not have a motion.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. No further discussion. All those in favor of the resolution 2025-14, excuse me, pardon me, 2025-5, LDR 25-01.
He asked if there was anybody in the public. He did ask.
Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. The resolution passes on first reading. Unanimous. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were plotting.
One giant leap for Newberry. All right, we're almost to the point of landing this plane, folks, so hang tight. We got one more item here, number 20, the Highland Park Development Construction Plan. And, you know, some of those things that we're talking about, I don't know, these, if you're that passionate about it, you got to be more vocal, I think, in the site plan portion when we're on these things instead of after the fact. And not in defending Highland Park, but I remember there was probably 95% of that area was a field. So I don't want the public to get the impression that they clear cutted,
Yeah, I understand
150
that.
acres of trees, but.
But I played many days over there in the
Understood.
big old oaks over there.
Understood. Highland Park, Resolution 2025-14, SD 2415. Mr. Attorney, will you go ahead and read that into the record?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate conditions and safeguards the construction plans for residential phases 1 through 3 of Highland Park Plan Development, formerly known as Newberry Plaza, as authorized under Section 5.17 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations for the construction of infrastructure and site improvements on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2025-14, upon its reading by title only.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Jean-Paul, there's a whole bunch of other slides that we didn't go through. They were
Backups in case they were needed for reference during the large-scale retail section. So
I'm sorry if
I over-prepared,
jumped through
sorry.
that. Oh, okay. So we're good. We're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, page 123 of the slide deck. Fire at will.
This is for the signature of the person as well.
No, this is just the construction plans. I'm understanding, sorry, John Paul Perez, Community Development Department. I understand that our motion, as it was published on the agenda, needs to include an acceptance of or authorize the city manager designate to execute a wastewater capacity reservation agreement for retail utilities. All right.
Back on 19?
This is on 19, item 19 on the agenda tonight, yeah, for Highland Park. So traditionally, Construction plans are a consent item, or at least they have been for the past year and a half, 2 years. These are technical drawings, usually done at the staff level, engineered drawings of site development that should be consistent with what you're seeing on the preliminary development plans adopted with the land use and zoning for our flexible zoning districts.
I'm sorry, were you saying we needed to go back to 19, or this was, should have been part of the resolution read in on number 20 for Highland Park?
Mr. Mayor, as a part of the Highland Park approval with this resolution, we are also requesting that the city commission authorize the city manager to execute the development agreement. It should have been a part of this original agenda item. So our request of the commission will be to pass resolution 2025-14 and authorize the city manager to sign the development agreement. And that's the wastewater development agreements the commission has previously approved for us to
Okay.
enter into with developers.
Okay. As we stand right now, we just read the resolution into the record. We don't have a motion on the floor yet. It'll essentially be both parts when we get to that point. Fair? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As I was saying, staff doesn't usually present on these items, they're consent. This was pulled last commission agenda for discussion by Commissioner Farnsworth. The applicant wasn't able to be present because they're out of town. They're here tonight to address any of the questions that may be put forward on this application. Staff's available to answer any questions at the moment. Otherwise, the applicant's here to address any questions, should they be needed. Otherwise, we would just move this to ask the board to make a motion at the will of the mayor and the commission.
All right, Commissioner Farnsworth, was there a particular element you wanted to have addressed by the builder? Do you remember?
No, I do not remember. I knew it. I knew it.
Shoot. Oh, crud. I guess that could be could be good or bad. I don't know. But you're
That's not been too important.
maybe not.
That's a waste of our time.
Well, did anybody want us to go through the backup?
No, all we gotta do is just, what.
I know, there's just slides in here. There's slides in here, whether or not you wanted to go through them. I'm just the orchestrator up here.
I think at that time.
JP, was there anything that changed from Highland Park? Is there anything, is there the red light on here? This just says construction for phase 1 through 3. So nothing in the front is on this. This is strictly just the housing.
So, yes, just the housing, phases 1 through 3. This originally came through as just phase 1.
And we're just breaking it up.
It's now gone from 1 and 2 to 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5 you'll see later. This is still 193 houses, but we've added a condition that we would regulate that through the phasing plan as presented in these drawings through the final plat, and that no more than one final plat can be under review for this particular development at a time. And so that will stagger. They won't adhere to the original phasing plan, which was 50 houses a year over the course of 7 years for a total of 350 houses. It'll probably move much quicker than that. But this at least puts a little bit of a throttle on the development as it's coming through. I understand that they have some national builders that are very excited to address the housing needs for the city of Newberry. Yeah, this is a little bit of a pump on the brakes as they're coming through to the board, opposed to having 193 at one time. Should be around 70.
In the backup, there were all sorts of facades included.
Yes.
Were those ones that the builder was choosing from the developer was choosing from with the builder? We're not part of that discussion, correct? We weren't choosing any of that.
No, so the code does require for these planned developments that landscape plans be provided, as well as typical models for the proposed development be provided.
So that's what that was?
Yes.
Okay.
So those are the models that will be within this development.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do we know which national builder is gonna be building in there?
Yes.
I don't know personally, but the
In the
developer's here
backup,
to answer.
in the backup, it was D.R. Horton, but it was,
Horton?
that was an email from 2 years ago, though, also.
Original? This house is more commercial. Yes.
Flat.
I do have a question. So, I think I like this setup. I do. So around the retention ponds, are those walk paths?
Yes, sir.
Nice. Hey, does the, and this may be a question that's been answered, over there by phase 3, is that gonna go all the way out to, what is that?
Doc Corrales.
Dr. Corrales, is that gonna go out that way?
Let's go to the phasing plan.
There's
so I
like a
can
break
see-
in the tree line now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's on the proposed secondary.
Yes.
act-
That'll
So
be
it will be connecting?
that'll be a driveway for the neighborhood there. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. And then, hey, so over there by the house that's to the west, that beautiful residential landmark, how are they going? What's going to go there? How's that? Just grass, and are you going?
So there will be here you can see on the screen this is the phasing
Yeah.
plan. It's not incorporated into the development as GrowMax developing it. That's going to be developed separately.
Okay.
It does have access or street frontage, I would say. Here, there's a preserved tree line around the property that's there today and will remain, to the best of my
Okay.
knowledge. Some nice magnolias, etc. But it will have access off of State Road 26 down the
Okay.
road on the right. Yeah, on the east.
It's already partially in.
I saw that.
Commissioner Farnsworth, you'll see the roadway on that top right corner that I was mentioned earlier, that has access out onto 26. And then there's secondary off Doc Corrales out to the blinking light at 235.
It's beautiful.
All right, what is the pleasure of the commission with regards to the resolution and companion motion on the developer's agreement to be signed off by the city manager?
Motion to
Second.
approve with the developer's agreement in it, which we know has to be done for our sewer plant. And I think everybody's on board, knows about it.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Maison. Any further discussion on the dais? Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimous. All right. We are moving along. Agenda items. New number 21, Easton Sports Development Foundation. We do not have number 22, so we're going to be doing one more item after that before comments. So who's handling Easton?
That.
Mr. Clark.
Here he is, like that jacket.
Thank you. And address Mr. Travis there while this is going on.
You're excused. Mr. Rod, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Rod Clark, Recreation Director. And I'm happy to give you a quick update of our negotiations with the Easton Sports Foundation. The recommended action that you received the staff update and also direct staff is not up here, but direct staff as follows: either to continue negotiations or terminate negotiations. As you all are aware, the commission asked staff to enter into negotiations with Easton, who's essentially a tenant who's operating out of our Easton Newberry Sports Complex building. We've talked the last few times I've been up here, we talked about the history and how we've gotten here. But essentially, they've been operating out of our building for 15 years. Staff has met with the Easton Sports Foundation, who seems amenable to continuing the negotiation conversations. Staff will continue these discussions and bring back information to the commission as it's available. I will say that the negotiations are moving in a positive direction. I sense a collaborative tone in our discussions. We are exploring all options, and I feel like we're moving in a good direction and seeking the best path forward. So again, that's it. The recommended action is that you receive the presentation and direct staff to either continue negotiations or cease negotiations at this time. That concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Mr. Clark, do you have any timeline on when you think this is going to wrap up? Do you need anything from us besides a head nod up or down?
I do not know. Like I said, we're discussing all possible options. We went from just one option, and now we're at three. Both sides seem willing to explore a third option, which was not on the table at first. So I do not have a particular timeline for you.
Okay.
But
Do you need some kind of a time frame from us up here to go back to the table to tell Easton, hey, the dais needs to get an answer within the next 60 or 90 days or something like that? Is that something you need? Anything like that?
I mean,
just brainstorming.
yeah. I feel like we could, within the next, I would say 30 to 40 days, I think we should be able to have something for you.
Okay.
Or 60, yeah. I mean, I feel comfortable with that. Like I said, I mean, it's negotiation, so
Sure.
things could be moving forward fine one moment, and then slow down another. But like I said, at this time, where we left off, I feel like we were moving forward.
Okay. So head nod yes for 60 days.
Okay.
Commissioner.
Are you able to
Clark?
discuss any of the options that you were thinking about, or
Sir, I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
are you able to discuss any of the options?
If-
I don't want you to go to a negotiation and come up with a plan, and then the commission say, no, we don't like that, and you've gone through all those negotiations. It would seem like you'd have some kind of presentation for us to look at to make a decision as to where we want to go with this.
I'm guessing that's what you're trying to get to.
That is what I'm trying to get to.
Form
I
up
mean,
the options, right?
Yes, sir. I
And then
mean,
you'll bring them back to us, and
Yes,
we'll,
sir.
if you have three options, we'll be able to choose from those three, or
Yes, sir.
or two,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
one.
Mr. Mayor, I think where we need is that we got a new city manager that's coming on board. We got an excellent, whoa. We got.
Rec director.
Thank you, sir. Don't mess me up, man. We got an excellent rec director. Let's give them 60 days, come back with, everything put together, and we'll go from there. And I think just keep rocking on. I think that's where we need.
Yes, sir.
So so it sounds like I'm hearing we try to target the second weekend in June.
60 days, let's do it.
Yeah.
60
Second
days.
meeting in June?
60 days.
Fair enough?
Yes,
Fair
sir.
enough.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
you've got your marching orders.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, we disposed of the planning and zoning appointment, so our last item is the discussion of the process for a city clerk. And Madam Clerk, you have the floor. You need a microphone.
She's comfortable right there.
Don't get up. I'm sorry. There you go.
You got turned on?
Yes, I do. Thank you. In your backup documents, you'll find a city clerk job description, updated description as of April the 23rd, and the proposed city clerk succession timeline. And we're already about 4 weeks behind what we initially were we're striving for. So what I'm looking for is some direction, and you have the job description. Do you like it? Do you want to change, do you want to have it amended? Do you want HR to work on the description? I was just trying to give you an overall, a more descriptive job duty.
That was sent via email, right?
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Commissioner Coleman? I mean, there's obviously 20 different ways we could go with this right now.
You're right, and I don't think that we need to spend the money to do a national search. Number two, I believe that we have somebody in-house that is capable of doing this job and doing it very well, that has a banking background, and me being a retired banker, I know what it takes, and the position that this one candidate had to go through, being a longtime banker herself. And I think it's doing a disjustice for any candidate if we don't get them in there with Miss Judy now, and I mean now, to see what is going on. She's already spending a little time over there, and I wish it was possible to make the motion tonight, and that's where I'm at.
Okay. Anybody else have thoughts?
I'll get with Miss Judy, and we'll look over this together. And I know we got a little bit of time, and I know what Commissioner Coleman's talking about, but I'd like to make a decision based on some more information from Miss Judy before we start. And then we got salaries to look at. We've got timelines, credentials, things that she say we need to put in for this. So I think there's a little more homework for me, and I'll be glad to come in and sit with you.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I've channeled that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you.
With Clark as well, I want to get the process of
Okay.
time to make sure we make the right decision. But I think we need Clark Judy to make sure we do the right thing by this process and get the right person in.
Yeah, Mr. Farnsworth, we're good? You're okay for right now?
I'm okay for now. We'll just wait and see
Okay.
how things develop.
All right, so let's get back with Judy on your schedules and have some further discussion at
Mr.
one of
Mayor,
our future meetings. Mr.
We're
Coleman?
already, Miss Judy already just said, we are 4 weeks behind. 4 weeks, guys.
So when you do it this
We should have been handling this sooner. I've been saying that. Miss Judy has been pounding it right up here, telling us we got to get it handled. So that's where I think everybody knows where I stand, though.
Understood. 10:30, okay. All right, well, thank you very much for the discussion. We will move on to comments to begin with. At 10:30, we have to extend our meetings by our bylaws, but we can get it in under 10:30, we'll be all good. Commissioner, City Manager? Why were you pointing it in?
Citizens comment first.
No, sorry, stand by.
I'm sorry.
I thought you had something to,
I do. I think that what the commission should do for the city clerk is that we would be happy to hold a special meeting in between to address Ms. Judy and Commissioner Coleman's concerns about being behind while giving the commission a chance to catch up. I am sensitive to the time constraints, but I also know it's 10:30 at night, and I don't think we can make this decision because we're tired, right? I think we need to come back, have another night when we're doing it. Staff is happy to do that if that's what the commission wants, to make sure we get this decision right. Better right than fast, and I know it's getting late, so. to make that offer.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have any objection to that necessarily.
You gotta come up with a date.
Let you guys get your discussions done first. Okay, so let's move to citizens' comment and land this plane. Anybody from the audience, citizen comment? All right, seeing none, city manager?
I have
Westfest?
45 pages of notes.
We'll cut it down to one. Fire.
The first, I'd like to announce the promotion of Jason Lyman to the fire chief position, as well as Deputy Chief Kevin Farr. I would also like to announce that our own Jamie Jones has earned his PMP, or Professional Project Manager, professional.
That's gonna cost us more money.
Good job, Jamie.
Good job, Jamie.
Jamie is now certified to do what we've always known that he can do. Speaking of Jamie, I'll be out of the office next week, so Jamie will be the acting interim city manager. So if you have any questions, please direct them to Jamie. There's also a resident in the audience who has plenty of free time. You can also direct your questions to. Mr. Mayor, we have called a special Board of Adjustment meeting for May 13th at 7 p.m. to discuss the track line appeal. That'll be here at City Hall on the Tuesday following your special meeting with the county. On that note, May 12th, the Monday before, is your joint city-county commission meeting with the county. That'll be at 7 p.m. at IFAS. It will not be here at City Hall, it'll be at IFAS. And then last but not least, the annexation window is open now, so if there's any properties that are in the county that are wishing to annex in or that you would like us to target for annexation, please get with Community Development and Stacy to let her know. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Very good, city attorney? No comment. Madam Clerk?
No comment, thank you.
Commission, we'll start to my right, we'll go to Coleman.
What?
Hey.
What are you gonna do? It's a dad joke. You like switching it up. That's all right. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. Westfest, I heard was a huge success. I got to hit it all here. Good job on that. We had movie night. Thank you, Mr. Mack, for helping us put that together. He donated some TVs, speakers, a couple of sound bars. Man, the kids love it. Popcorn. So Latasha, phenomenal job out there at MLK. And we plan on doing like other things, ice cream night. Trying to wrap it all in. You took me off by surprise. I think that's it. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations.
Onward and upward.
Good to see you, Walt. It's good to see you here.
Congratulations.
Good to see you. Thank you. Good to see all the citizens here that came. It was a nice turnout. Peggy, I love you. In lieu of trees tonight, why do trees hate tests?
Pests or tests?
Test. Like taking tests. Why do they hate that? Come on now. Give me some guesses. Yes. Because
They
they
always
get
leave.
stumped every time.
Commissioner Long?
Wow, I sit next to this now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's late.
Congratulations.
Oh, man. Well, great first meeting. Had a good time tonight. I'm looking forward to working with you guys and Ms. Judy again. Enjoy retirement coming up soon. And like I said, staff, it will be a pleasure working with you guys. And Newberry is just glad to work with you guys. Thank you.
Mr. Farnsworth?
God bless America.
Mr. Clark?
Congratulations to all those promotions and the things we're moving forward in Newberry and to you guys. Chief, welcome aboard in the spot, and I know some things are changing, and we're here to support you. So, and the Veteran Memorial is coming along quite well, even with a few things that we had go wrong. Everybody got in, got it done. Absolutely, we should be flying granite this week at some point. We'll know that Wednesday, Thursday. So this is coming along, and it'll be on time and on budget, And, other than that, you said, God bless America, we got a lot of troops deployed. So, God bless our troops that are out there doing the things that, need to be done for our freedom. So, that's all I got.
Commissioner Coleman.
This week, or actually part of last week, we had 2 deaths on 235, and we had 1 death on 337. And I said that I really don't want to go to a meeting with the county up here on the dais. I believe it was the last time I was up here. But this time I will. I cannot understand that they're not taking this to heart. I don't know how many people in the last year have died on 337, but there's been quite a bit. And 235, I mean,
It's happening more and more.
all the time, and these roads are ridiculous. Chief, welcome. I'm proud you're here, man. Miss Judy, I made you for last. Lord, sister, I'm gonna miss you. You sure you don't want to stay about 2 or 3 more years?
I'm sure.
Think about it.
The sweetest lady and all, man, during election time and just making sure that we're doing it right. Man, I just really, really appreciate you. And I'm gonna miss you. And that's all I got for tonight.
Oh, very good. Well, I'll just conclude by saying how it's so good to see all the positive energy happening, all the little projects moving forward, the staff getting credentialed, building the bench has always been a big concern of mine, and just happy to be here now as mayor, and for the first time, our meeting is adjourned.
I'll call you about 11.